biggest Democrat challenger, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is holding steady at around 20% support amongst Democrat voters in the latest primary polls.
And former Ohio Congressman Dennis Kucinich is officially coming out of political retirement as RFK tapped him for campaign manager.
Dennis Kucinich joins us now with more from the trail. Dennis, great to see you this morning. Glad to have you on the program.
Wow. It's great to be with you. And hello, Fox.
Good morning to you. Tell us, okay, you're running the campaign from RFK Jr. As you guys see it, what's the path? How do you see the lane for RFK Jr. to step in and win the Democratic nomination over Joe Biden?
I think not just Democrats, but I think all Americans are waiting to be united, to put aside all the divisions that have plagued our country in so many years. And Robert F. Kennedy is a unity candidate. He's somebody who has the capacity to reach out and heal the divides which have tormented our country and have separated us, liberal, conservative, right, left, Democrat, Republican. We now have a candidate in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who has the capacity to take America to the highest octave and to heal all these divides. So, I mean, I think the path is one that is how people feel about him. It's people like him. People have a sense of history about him, and they trust him.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things I've always liked about you too, Dennis. I've always felt I don't agree with many of your positions, all of your positions, but I've always felt like you were an honest broker, and I feel the same way about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That said, you talk about this divide. I think Americans are coming together on a lot of issues that the establishment Republicans don't admit, and the Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton warmonger group don't admit, and that is on peace. RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, two prominent candidates on both sides of the aisle, both agree that the war in Ukraine, for example, is something that we shouldn't be involved in. We can bring Americans together on that.
I would agree. And, of course, looming behind that is the danger of expanding war, is the danger of World War III. And it appears that the people who are making these decisions right now are not really mindful of the great threat that is in the background if we do not find a way to resolve this. And diplomacy is something that not just myself, but Mr. Kennedy understands. He wants America's role in the world to be cooperative. He doesn't want to be rattling sabers. He understands the cost in human life and the cost to the American budget. The other thing, you had this story a little bit earlier about the...
Welcome to another episode of the Post-Duopoly Show. We're hosting on this stream. We are RBN. We have Hardlands Media and Due Dissidence. What's up, kid? What's up, Due Dissidence? How you guys doing today?
Oh, Kit's got to unmute the mic. All right, I'll jump in. Doing good.
Go ahead. I was like, wait, is my sound off again?
Doing
what's
good.
up, fellas? Whoever wants to jump in, go ahead.
Doing good in a world that's understandably out of our control. But hey, glad to have all of you here with us here on Revolutionary Blackout Network.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much again.
And Nick, what's up, sir?
What's poppin', my friends, my family, my crew? We are back. Much demand for this. This is a very fun series to do. The Post-Duopoly leftist show. Regarding the clip we played earlier, like, you guys need to understand the absolute polling disaster that Joe Biden is going through right now. Like, there's the big poll that came out with Biden losing to Trump, but it's worse than that. It's across the board. And I'm gonna get to that here very soon. But watching Biden poll number dip so bad, seeing how RFK is surging despite the media blackout, I'm very interested in seeing how they're going to rig this. I'm very interested in seeing what they're about to do.
What did they come up with this time? Like, I can't imagine what they're going to come up with, but they are going to come up with something. Go ahead.
RFK, unlike Marianne, is a threat, man. Marianne was always a joke because she don't even oppose Joe Biden's most prominent policies as commander-in-chief, his foreign policy, the Ukraine war, his positioning on China and Taiwan. But we got RFK calling Biden out for the war in Ukraine. He's a COVID skeptic, to say the least. Like that's dangerous for the establishment. So it's gonna be very interesting to see. Like, I think they're gonna just take this motherfucker off. They're gonna find a way to disqualify him. If you guys think they're gonna allow you to vote their power away, especially with a sitting president, I don't know
What do you think, though,
they're gonna do something.
Nick, about the Dennis Kucinich thing? Do you think that's a brilliant pick as a campaign manager for the RFK campaign? Can you comment on that, sir? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's gonna make that big of a deal. Maybe it may shift some people who are more standard Democrats to legitimize this campaign, but I don't think these like individual staff picks are gonna matter. They usually don't. Biden's unpopularity and liberals definitely underestimated how unpopular war is. If you guys don't think Biden's unpopularity and RFK's popularity has nothing to do with Biden literally committing millions of dollars more for the Ukraine war, and he's cutting social benefits as he's funding the Ukraine war more. And with that said, I actually want you guys' thought on this, because this is why Biden is losing. And you had progressive and liberal feminists who abandoned Me Too, threw their integrity in the trash for what? I asked that question today. So if you're a feminist and you're like, man, fuck that Me Too shit, we gotta beat Trump. You abandon your own principles for this. Joe Biden proposes $1 trillion in social spending cuts after announcing $375 million more for Ukraine. You guys think that has nothing to do with the poll numbers? And then we're gonna get to that here very soon. You guys think that had nothing to do with it? You guys have anything else you want to?
I would like to add real quick here. So all these people who gave up their integrity, they were never serious about all the stuff they were protesting against Trump in 2016 through 2020. None of these people were ever serious. They didn't believe, not half, but all of the stuff that they were saying. To be an actual activist, to be an actual organizer, you must be willing to go all the way to challenge the two-party system. And at least from my perspective, from Hardlands Media, all the people I've interviewed were never authentic. I was wasting my time, but let this be a lesson. So if Trump gets reelected, we need to cipher through the sand and the dirt of who is actually really talking and calling out the two-party system. Biden's unpopularity, Dissidents called it out, RBN called it out, Hardlands Media, Jimmy Dore, and the list goes on. And everyone in our audience right now, you called it out too. This is actually vindication. We've been vindicated. We said that this was going to happen. We knew that this was going to happen, and we have been proven to be factually correct. And this is no debate. So if you vote blue, no matter who, keep on getting triggered. But you know what? You're a sucker because you fell for the Democratic neoliberal trap. Simple as that. I'm not going to be nice. This is the real truth to it.
They're not used to post-duopoly leftists who view Democrats the same as Republicans. They're used to leftists being friendly with them. That's not what this is about.
What are your thoughts, Dissidents, on RFK and Dennis Kucinich? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, on the question of how will they rig it, I think the reason they have laid off of him... I love that
phrasing.
...until now, I mean, I think the reason they've laid off of him until now is because there is an incumbent Democrat, and they're trying to play it like this is just unserious, right? They're trying to play it like we don't have to concern ourselves with RFK or Marianne now because we are the incumbent president. There's not going to be a real primary. These are not real challengers. That's why they're not even being included in most of the polls that come out. They're still polling Pete Buttigieg's, support, Bernie's, as if they have not already endorsed Biden, right? So the reason they haven't gone after them yet is because they still want to sort of prop themselves up as, of course, the anointed, inevitable nominee. If this were an open primary, they'd have started the smears on RFK as soon as he got off wherever he was on stage in Boston, at that campaign launch. They'd have started right away. And if you don't think that they can destroy this guy in 5 minutes with the Democratic base, not with the overall population, but with the Democratic base, once they start running those ads, about autism and the vaccines and this and that. I mean, forget it. The guy has no chance whatsoever in a Democratic Party because of the Democratic voters and how they feel about those issues. You know, this is what I mean. I've been banging my head up against the wall for a long time, making this point to people. Just because RFK has crossover appeal, that's wonderful in a general election. It would be especially wonderful as a third-party candidate. Crossover appeal does not help you in a Democratic primary. You're dealing with the politics girl audience in a Democratic primary. If you turn them off, you cannot win. And so once they start running ads against RFK, he's done. He's done. They've laid off now because they don't want to take him seriously, because taking him seriously this early makes them look very weak. And so they're trying not to do that.
To that point, now that's a great point. And the question was about Dennis Kucinich and his effect on the campaign. I saw some people in the chat that think he may be effective. Not saying he won't, who knows? But
I don't think so. I mean, I like Dennis Kucinich, but the Democrats have marginalized him years ago. Yeah. You know, agreed. I mean, he backed Tulsi in 2020. You know, I mean, he's been, you know, he's put his thumb in their eye a few times, and they've successfully marginalized him. He pulls no weight with the Democratic base, unfortunately.
Yeah, my point being, who do you guys think is more influential, Dennis Kucinich or Jim Clyburn in North Carolina?
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah, but what matters?
Exactly.
Well,
you guys remember how they rigged it?
Okay.
What stays first?
Well, that's it, and that's why it's sad seeing people who want to burn down the Democratic Party. Like, clearly, a lot of people who watch our show, I'm sure you get a lot of this. They want to really get behind this RFK campaign. And it's like, come on, man! How did you forget? Bernie had 1 million volunteers. 1 million volunteers.
Yeah.
This is a joke. This is a joke. And even the way that he's polling right now, this happens all the time. The voters like to kind of be a little ornery when it doesn't matter. Kind of like Congress, right? They like to kind of get their backs up. Yeah, we're going to be rebellious. When push comes to shove, by the time they're actually walking in that voting booth, he'll be polling 5%, 6%. Maybe not with the general population, which is why if he were running third party, we might take him seriously. But this is just going to end up being an enormous waste of time and energy. I mean,
it's like
I think
he's just flirting. He's just flirting is what you're describing. Like flirting. And he's married. He's still married over here.
Right. Exactly.
Well, that's it. He's running inside the Democratic Party. The fact that he calls Joe Biden his good friend. Anybody who's a veteran of the Bernie campaign should get triggered by that right there. That should tell you something right there. We got him flying around like every other rich fuck running around Washington with Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody seems to want to talk about that on top of everything else. Him, Bill Gates, Noam Chomsky, who hasn't been on that plane at this point? And they, at this point, as Keaton points out, they haven't even bothered with him. And he's only, people are going, he's polling at 19%. He's polling at only 19%. Look at who he's running against. Look at you. This is probably the weakest incumbent I've ever seen in my lifetime, Joe Biden. And if you're only polling 19% against him and they haven't even bothered to comment on your campaign, all it takes with the Democratic base, as soon as they turn around and say virus of unknown origin and he doesn't believe in the vitamins, that's it. It's over. It's over for him.
Yeah.
You know,
the cowbell liberals. Cowbell liberals are the people they're speaking to the point.
That's it. They're never going off the reservation and voting for a vaccine skeptic. That would never happen.
There's only one caveat that could be taken away from an RFK campaign. Now, look, I'm voted third party. You can do whatever you want. I understand that there are RFK supporters in my audience and even here or wherever, but the one caveat that could be taken away. I'm writing
in Dave Chappelle again.
Yeah, but the one caveat that could be taken away is that, unlike Trump, RFK has been saying some very interesting things, calling out the corruption as well as neoliberalism, not to the extent I would like to see it to go further, but to do so to where there is broad appeal. But again, this is not a general election. This is a primary, as again, everyone here has brought up. So it could potentially be used as further political power for people like us who want to tell people to break away from the two-party system. Like, hey, look, here's RFK Jr. He's getting away with and saying things that Bernie Sanders would never have the balls to say, but he's running in a Democratic Party. So everyone don't pretend to be shocked when the DNC finally screws him over, which is what they are going to do. They haven't done it yet, but they're probably waiting in wings just to do so, because let's face it, all the news surrounding Joe Biden, his approval rating, it is absolutely devastating, and they need to do everything they can. What the Democrats are going to do is everything they can to try and shine up Joe Biden and make him look like something that he is not. So what we could take away from an RFK campaign is that people on the left, right, the center are all coming to terms like, okay, wait a minute, RFK is a little more coherent than Trump and is actually saying things about the system that I agree with, that it's screwed up, that it's murdering us, that it's keeping us further and further in debt. That's the one thing we could take away. But what I'm concerned about is that you're going to still see people fall in love with a political candidate and think that their candidate can go all the way. But again, when you run in a Democratic primary, they've already admitted that they're going to rig the system. It's like going to a casino. You know the house always wins, folks, and the DNC wants to win all the time. I'm so sorry, RFK and Marianne Williamson supporters. I understand it, and if that's what you want to do, fine. But just don't be disappointed when they tell you to vote Joe Biden, okay?
At least RFK is going to be interesting to watch, because I have nothing but strategic disagreements with RFK. And that's what I've been criticizing. I've seen some people who are impressed with RFK as well. That's like, man, Nick, why can't you guys get behind him? Why can't you just vote for him, man? Do something. Like, I with the platform I have, I cannot be irresponsible.
Exactly.
I do not
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I will be 100% clear with you guys. When I hear RFK speak about pardoning Julian Assange, when I hear him calling out the Ukraine war, those are great headlines for us to get. That's why I trash Marianne Williamson, because what Marianne Williamson is doing, she's generating the same headline AOC generating.
Right,
different. Medicare for all, living wage, economic freedom. Like, every Democrat runs on that. What's the difference between you and the person that's currently in charge of the executive branch? So at least RFK bringing up interesting stuff, but I cannot be irresponsible. I cannot lie to you guys. I have zero hope. And this is how I legitimately feel after being part of the system, in a way, being part of the Bernie campaign. Watching this, I voted green. Like, this system is rigged. I cannot, in good faith or conscience, telling you guys this is going to be successful.
Exactly.
That's the reality. But go ahead, Kev. Anyone else want to chime in?
Well, yeah. Here's our social responsibility as commentators, as reporters, as people in independent media. Look, we've been through this rodeo not once but twice. This is our third time now going through another presidential election cycle, and I understand where people come from. If they say, "Hey, I want to vote Democrat or Republican," I get it. But I am not going to sit here on my platform or on anyone else's show and sell you something that we know will never come into fruition. There are so many hoops that RFK Jr. has to go through in order for him to win the nomination. He might as well be floating through a tunnel. That's how many hoops that he has to go through. And the thing is, we know this isn't up for a debate. We know the DNC commits election fraud. Yeah. There's been evidence so many times. All of you, we've lost count how many times we talk about how the Democrats commit election fraud. And again, I'm going to say this again, just to trigger the vote blue, no matter who people. But Donald Trump was more democratically elected in the Republican 2016 primary than Hillary Clinton was, because a Republican primary doesn't have super delegates. And that's, again, what anybody who's running for president in Democratic primary has to come to terms with. You're not going to win. You're going to lose. Simple.
But what they really have to come to terms with is that the voters suck ass. And that the voters are not going to go for them.
It's never going to come to having.
It's not going to come to the DNC and rigging and election fraud and this and that. Like that, I feel like that is a point that's worth emphasizing, but I feel like that has been overemphasized at the expense of the more important point, which is the population of people who is voting in Democratic primaries are stupid and shallow and self-interested, and they will never go for RFK in significant numbers for him to win anyway, regardless of what the DNC has plans to do if he gets close to them, right? I think that's really, really important for everybody to understand, because that also affects how you make your arguments, because you have to know who you can make your arguments to and who you can't. So the interesting thing about RFK, there have been a couple of think pieces in various outlets. I think Washington Post ran one. I forget which other outlet, but it was, one of the major ones, comparing his candidacy to Trump's. And so talking about he's running a very Trumpian campaign, touching on some very Trumpian themes. And it is interesting because what I do see in RFK's campaign is sort of the left-wing version of the Steve Bannon platform, the dismantling of the administrative state. That's what Steve Bannon talked about. Right. RFK, in a sense, is talking about that as well. He's not talking about sweeping, broad-based, mass sort of populist reforms like Medicare for all, but he is talking about using the power of the executive to go into these institutions and sort of pick them apart and piece them back together in a way that serves people better. So it's not quite the Bernie platform. It's not mass politics. It's not social democracy. But it is this sort of top-down restructuring of all of these institutions that he feels are very rotted out. That is a version, like I said, that's the more left-wing pro-government version of the Steve Bannon platform, which is burn it all to the ground, right? So there is a darkness, there is a dysfunction in the system that he speaks to, much in the way that Trump spoke to it. And so that is interesting. It's very, very interesting. But it's not of interest to the Democratic base. It's not of interest to the Democratic base. Democratic primary voters are only about 30 million people in a country of 330 million. So it's not a knock on him to say he's going to strike out with Democratic voters. But you do have to understand that when you're talking about these bigger themes and these bigger issues, you are pitching them to an audience that doesn't understand them. Our friend Anis wrote a great article for RFK, and I told him, it's like you wrote Macbeth and you put it on in a theater where the audience only wants to see Oklahoma. They want to see guys in the house. You're putting on high art for an audience that's not capable of absorbing it. And it's important to understand that.
Forget guys and dolls. They want to watch like a TV sitcom is what they want to
Power
watch
Rangers.
I'm gonna read this point for Zoya, and I'll pass it back to the panel. Zoya says DNC lawsuit. Zoya's love. Zoya's life. DNC lawsuit said they are a private corporation with the right to select any candidate they want. I know people got goldfish memories. I remember that. The Dem primaries are a money-making distraction for the proletariat modern coliseum. That's so beautiful and properly put by Zoya's love, Zoya's life. And I'm going to show you guys what she means here, because I have long memory, unlike many bourgeoisie liberals that call themselves part of the progressive movement, who want to waste another $100 million on this shit again. I saw this headline, that shit burnt into my brain.
Right.
This shit burnt into my brain. I was on the Bernie campaign. I saw this headline.
Yeah, I remember that.
Doing, man. Look at this. Democratic leaders willing to risk party damage to stop Bernie. Can you imagine when they would do the RFK? They would lit this whole party on fucking fire before let RFK win. Well, interviews with dozens of Democratic Party officials, including 93 superdelegates, found overwhelming opposition to handling Mr. Sanders' the nomination if he fell short of the majority of delegates. Anyone want to chime in? I just want to make sure I show this headline.
This is a point.
It's free in my head for years. But anyone want to take it from here?
Well, we covered this. When did we last do a show? Yesterday. Man, it's been a long goddamn day. I forgot we even did a show yesterday. We covered last night how there's a centrist PAC called No Labels who is thinking about recruiting Joe Manchin to run as a third party in 2024, which speaks to the point of this. Like, these centrists, where the real money is, right, the actual centers of capital that benefit off of whoever wins, they are more than willing to blow up the Democratic Party if they feel they have to. Right. So if it looks to them that Biden cannot win, they'll say, well, fuck it. If the Democrats are no good to us, we'll just run Joe Manchin on a third-party ticket. Like, the centrists have no illusions about what these parties are. These parties are nothing more than front groups for their money. And so they're willing to burn it all down in a heartbeat if they feel like, oh, shit, this Democrat car won't run anymore. Let's just put Manchin up, run him as a third party. And so there needs to be that same sort of Machiavellian streak for any sort of populist or left movement that wants to sort of infiltrate the system, we have to have the killer instinct to say we're willing to do that too.
You know, when we look at the fact that the Democratic Party was saying all this brazen stuff in 2020, what I find interesting, though, is there is a little bit of a change. Not drastic, though, but again, the evidence is clear, as well as from reports from corporate media. Pretty soon they're going to get the memo to fall in line and circle the wagons around Biden. But everyone has been quietly saying, well, Biden's approval ratings are going down. He's not popular. All that fluff stuff that we did as soon as he got elected into office, it's not sticking to the wall anymore. And we realize that the whole room is filled with crap. I mean, there are subtle hints that's kind of being broadcast. And there's this talk of, again, we still got to support Biden. We still got to do this, but it's not hitting. And I played a video that was posted by Case Study QB where even Vote Blue, no matter who people are saying, he's too old. I don't want to vote for Biden. I'm not enthralled. But now again, Keen brought up the base is stupid. That simple. The base is stupid. But what I find interesting though is that there is the potential, as Russell brought up, that look, the DNC can go full on cannon fire against RFK, but can it really stick? Because RFK is not Bernie. RFK has been saying things that obviously would never be heard in a Democratic primary, or either that was fall out the lips of Bernie Sanders. So it is a gamble if they try and destroy the Democratic Party, because that could be the final kill shot in which voters don't turn up at all. And what I mean by voters, I'm talking about progressives and independents are like, okay, fine, but we won't see you in the general election. It could probably be a lower turnout.
Aren't we already there though?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because again, you still have people who believe in the idea that electoral politics can help. Now, I'm all on board in supporting third parties and citizen ballot initiatives, but I think this could be, and again, this is not the most important election cycle of our lifetime, but this could probably be the turning point election year in which people are like, okay, it doesn't matter who sits in the White House. It doesn't matter who is president. It doesn't matter which political party is in. I'm still broke. I'm still starving in the street. The hell with this. This could be that threshold in which, again, nothing could ever be reset.
Well, yeah, I think we're there. I think you have some people who just cannot imagine going through a presidential election cycle without getting involved with somebody's campaign. They just can't wrap their heads around it, even though it's clearly irrational at this point, given everything we know, the journey most of us been on with the two Bernie campaigns. It makes absolutely no sense to get involved in a Democratic primary. I wrote an article called Dawn of the Dems, where I said presidential campaigns are the shopping mall they're returning to, like the zombies in that movie. They just, somewhere in their brain, they're fixated on it. They remember it's a place they used to go. So they have to keep going there every presidential election cycle. But there's no reason for it at this point. And if you look at how people have been performing in primaries, where the progressive candidate is running, they've all been losing. Because we're not getting involved. We're not supporting them. We're not sending.
Yeah, Nina Turner was an example.
Nina Turner was a great example. When was the last time one of these people announced they're going to be like a new addition to the squad that anybody got behind that in our space? Like nobody even bothers to even talk about it. I don't even know the names of these people. I just read about how they lost. Honestly, like we just don't get involved in these things anymore. So that's what I mean, Kit. Like, that ship has sailed. Like who? Like I said, I'm not kidding. I wrote in Dave Chappelle last time. I'm very likely to write in Dave Chappelle this time.
Let me interject. Or go ahead to your comment, and then I'll interject.
Just a real quick. I mean, maybe it's just the people I've been speaking to, Russell. Just there are so many people who I've been talking to, friends, colleagues, in real life, and of course online too, where they're. Maybe like they're still involved in electoral politics, and so maybe that's where my perspective is coming from. Now, of course, we'll find out what the overall turnout will be come the primary and general election. To your point, yeah, you're probably most likely correct that maybe we are there, but I feel that we're not there yet, and this will be the point to where afterwards we will be there. That's what I wanted to.
Well,
really
if what you mean is after they see that RFK was pointless, like what I mean is by we're already there is I don't think a lot of these people will end up doing the, well, I gotta vote for Biden. That's what I mean by we're already there.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I don't think a lot of those people are gonna do that once the RFK thing immolates. With Biden, to your point, it was funny with Biden because with Hillary, look, you had people who would walk through fire for Hillary. It was sad and insane, but it was true. I never met a Biden stan, like not anyone under like 75. I've known a few like really elderly people who felt that Biden was great for the country, but as a rule, the vote blue no matter who people were very cold towards him. Like, it's what I have to do. They did it as a duty. They had no passion about it. So now that he's, even further along in his dementia, that's just even more pronounced. Like you're not seeing even the vote blue no matter who people. I'm not seeing any of them standing up and saying Biden's great. You're seeing a lot of Trump is terrible. You're not seeing a lot of defense of Joe Biden. I'm not seeing a lot of that. The most they can muster is Biden is a decent man, which is not much of a proposition.
Not compared, Russell, certainly not to 2020 when they were selling it, and it just felt like a better game to sell because we didn't know what was in the package. The problem is we've been through a Biden administration, but to one of your other points, when we're talking about passion, when we're talking about a once in a lifetime, I'm interjecting this part. It's related, but not related. It's related. When you're talking about being passionate about a candidate, when you're talking about a candidate that you believe in, there are some people that think this is the guy that's going to be.
Oh no! God damn it! Not this. Fuck. Why the hell he got looking like that? Like a goddamn Karl Marx or Stalin. What the fuck?
It does look like
Mayor
Stalin,
Pete
actually.
for president, and we all have seen this tweet, and this tweet says, "Raise your proud hand if you would like to see Pete Buttigieg run for president of the United States in 2028." So you can tell this is a Democratic person. They ain't trying to ruffle any feathers.
Right.
2024.
Like,
so
Elon, I thought you got rid of the box.
2034. And let me just show you one of the reaction of you guys that's here right now.
Elon, I thought you got rid of the box. I thought you got rid of the box. Like, come on, 10.8.
There's no way. Let me click on that. Go ahead, Nick. Make that point. Let me go back to that tweet so we can see the point. Go ahead, Nick. Where was the point you were making?
10.8 thousand likes.
That's ridiculous.
You guys think that's real? No fucking way. Get the fuck out. No. Elon, massive L on your part. I thought you was gonna get rid of the box.
Well, where did they find that picture? Is that like an AI generated picture? Or is that a real
exactly? So what I want to add
is there was just, I am assuming this is coming from, there was just an article, I think it was Vanity Fair, that was insane, that describes Pete Buttigieg's mind as being like a cathedral with many rooms.
I think I saw that. Yeah, I think.
I'm betting that's where that picture came from.
Well, let me add this as someone who's lived in Indiana and someone who's at least had some experience there in that state because it's my second home. Look, folks, Pete Buttigieg was once the mayor of a place called South Bend, Indiana. Under Pete Buttigieg's administration as mayor of South Bend, Indiana, black communities were displaced. Black neighborhoods got gentrified. And in the 2020 Democratic primary, the police in South Bend, Indiana killed a black man. And Pete Buttigieg went there. The people of South Bend, Indiana, particularly even the black community, confronted Pete Buttigieg and gave him a piece of their mind. Go talk to the people of South Bend, Indiana, and really ask them what they think about the neoliberals' favorite little darling child, Pete Buttigieg, and how he willingly turned a blind eye to police corruption, how he allowed police brutality to happen under his administration, and how he was never going to be the one to hold them accountable, and how his administration was walked all over by everyone. He was nothing more than a glorified sock puppet, which is what he was then, and which is what he is now to this day. Pete Buttigieg isn't some Democrat. He is a dime store version of Obama, and that's not saying much, because unlike Obama, Pete Buttigieg can't complete anything, not charismatic, incapable of rallying support. And plus, if you look at how he handled the crisis in East Palestine, Ohio, it is quite clear that Pete Buttigieg is the last person you want to be sitting in the White House. This is an individual that willingly allowed the people that he's supposed to rule over and administrate over and protect. He let gentrification, police brutality happen. No accountability under Pete Buttigieg. Can you imagine a United States with Pete Buttigieg as president? It's a goddamn nightmare. He won't even get a goddamn voice in. That's how weak-willed he truly is. And
he
if
can't even make the planes run on time. Yeah. So this is another thing with Buttigieg. If he were not a Democrat, isn't he supposed to be canceled? I mean, he claimed endorsement from African Americans who never endorsed him based on an email. If you didn't respond to the email in time, you were assumed to have endorsed him. And then after he gets busted for that, he starts claiming endorsements from Black-owned restaurants in South Carolina that he ate at. Seriously, the owners had to come out and be like, I didn't endorse him. He ate here. He had an event here. We didn't endorse him. He used pictures for his plan for Black America from Kenya. He used stock photos of Kenyans. Now, all of this, if I understand the rules correctly that are laid out, aren't these all cancelable offenses? Isn't he? I mean, if it were a Republican, they'd want to cancel him, right? Like, isn't this all cancelable? Doing something like that? Why is he being talked about for president?
I'm going to go back to the old theory that I brought back up in 2020. Pete Buttigieg is a Skaven. So shout out to my Warhammer fans. But so for those who don't know, a Skaven is like a rat creature, and Pete Buttigieg is a goddamn rat. That's all he is.
It's funny that liberals really believe that Black people going to vote for Pete Buttigieg. Not going to happen.
Well, this is what I mean. I mean, this is once again. I've been making this point forever. This is evidence. It all comes back to just understanding how incredibly dumb these people are. They just, you cannot get it through these people's heads that Pete Buttigieg has zero Black support. You can't win a Democratic primary with zero Black support. Period. That's it. It's the end. That's the beginning and the end of the conversation right there. Yet it doesn't matter. They still share these memes around like they're going to make something out of this guy.
Because they only talk to each other.
Well, yes, exactly. And that's why you can never get through to them. Because they
live in a mental headspace where everyone outside their bubble are the Visigoths over the hills. These are the barbarians that have to be either civilized or beaten back. So there's no need to really be curious about what anyone who wants to vomit when they see Pete Buttigieg thinks, no matter or why they feel that way. There's no need.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Did you guys watch that documentary that came out about him a couple years back?
Hell no.
Russell and I watched it. We used that as a fundraising drive. What we did was we said, because we had to raise some money. So we said, what was it? Like, we need 20 new Patreon members by a certain time. And if we hit that fundraising goal, we'll release that as a Patreon only show. So we watched it, but it's amazing. Like, in that whole film, there is literally not one instance where the audience is told a single thing that Pete Buttigieg would do if he wins and actually assumes the Oval Office. Not a single thing. Not a single time did anyone say what this guy's plan is to do. A single policy, a single idea to move the country. No, it's all charisma. It's manufactured charisma. He is just a character profile for what a lot of these, woke sort of white liberals aspire to be.
Well, they also, I mean, if you look at that raise your proud hand, they've taken a lot of just causes and used them as branding exercises. They've just taken gay rights as a cultural signal to their base that you have to get behind this to show that you support gay rights. And you can support gay rights and not support Pete Buttigieg, but they want their people to think that way so that they can push their buttons just by slapping these labels onto the products that they're trying to push.
Actually, if you guys don't mind, I actually want to make a correction of what I said earlier. Pete Buttigieg could win if the Democratic Party want him to win. They will just depress turnout, but they are definitely grooming him. And I can definitely see them doing an Iowa 3.0 after like Biden A1 steps down. You just see record depressed turnout, just like you're going to see in upcoming elections. But like I said on Twitter when I react to this story, the sad part is it doesn't matter whether they force Pete Buttigieg down your throat, whether they pick Kamala Harris, whether they find another neoliberal like Katie Porter or someone else. It's going to be very sad to see Bernie and his movement endorse Pete Buttigieg. Are you guys ready for Bernie Sanders to tell you guys that 2028 is the most important election of your lifetime because Tucker Carlson is going up? I know you guys don't like Pete Buttigieg. I know you guys have disagreements, but Tucker Carlson, guys, he's a Nazi. He's a white supremacist. This
Actually,
is
you know what?
Election, and I can easily see AOC say stuff like, "Man, I work with Pete Buttigieg, and he's actually a great guy once you get to know him."
If it's Tucker Carlson versus Pete Buttigieg, that will be.
And then we go Keaton.
Oh, sorry, no, that's okay.
So real quick, I mean, adding to your point with the Tucker Carlson presidency, I mean, come on, it would be entertaining, and not to mention, I think his presidential addresses would be far more engaging. I think he would actually have an input into that if that was ever to be the case. But all this hype around Pete Buttigieg and everything that he supposedly stands for, I can't help but think of that quote from Jimmy Dore. If the Democratic Party was around or was what it is during the Civil War era, they'd be celebrating their first slave owner who was transgender. It doesn't matter who the Democrats put up, because the thing is, the Democrats want someone to hold up the neoliberal agenda, be they part of the LGBTQ community, be they black, be they Latino, be they a woman, so long as you follow the corporate plan of the Democratic establishment, they're okay with you. And if they want you to win, as Nick pointed out, then they're going to make sure you're going to win. Case in point, Barack Obama's phone call in South Carolina and during the Democratic primary of 2020, when everyone went behind Biden. So if they want you to win, they'll let you win.
Yeah. I don't know how they would do it, but they'll find a damn way. If they want to annoy him, they would, because they annoyed Biden. Remember, Biden was like 4th place in New Hampshire. Thought that motherfucker was dead. Then they was like,
all it took was James Clyburn to say yay or nay. That was it. That was great.
The mafia boss.
That was the most dangerous thing that was.
All right. Let's do some super chats. Yeah, and then we'll get to the next story here.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to super chats, and I'm gonna share this quick story about Biden poll number. We can discuss that because I think it's a good follow to the segment that we just did. The reason why people are even considering RFK, the reason why his poll numbers is horrific, is because the Democratic Party culture war and their talking points has failed spectacularly. And it's according to polling. You got Joanne Reed and a bunch of blue check liberals that are in their own little fucking bubble that no one in America agrees with. But we're gonna get to that later. Look, we get to some super chats, get some shout outs as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the solidarity. $3 super sticker, James. We have a few up here. Tusker, very powerful profile picture there. Thank you for $20. Thank you for $10. Saul as well. Big shout out to friends of our show there. Thank you for the $5. Lawrence Johnson. How can we get states to avoid election laws that give an unfair edge to these so-called private corporations? DNC, RNC, and their nominees. And this is the question I pose to people, and I am biased as a third-party activist because there's questions about how can we sue them for having an unfair election. I'm like, you know how much money and effort that would take? Why are we doing all this stuff instead of doing the third-party thing? Like, if you let's say you successfully sue the RNC and DNC, that money could have went to building a third party, making an argument on why we should have a third party. Why are we spending money on side projects that's not going to work? That's what I keep advocating for. But that's work, though. I get it. But anyway, thank you for the contribution. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for $5. Buster Peak 21. RFK Jr. would be better off running in
He's
the
right.
Party.
He's right. Because they actually let their voters decide who wins.
Yeah. I think Trump mania is real, though. I don't think he'd be Trump, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. But the point that the Republican Party primary is more fair is a legit one. I just think Trump mania is ridiculous. Thank you for the $10, GV Black. And we're going to get to that too soon because I'm going to show you guys the poll where Biden is down. But that's the main headline. But I want to focus on what big shout out to Glenn Greenwald because he highlights this as well, like the massive cultural disconnect when you look at the rest of the issues down the line. We get to that here soon. Very quick segment, and then we move on to CJ after that. Thank you for $10,
sir.
Black. My friends, family, crew. What a truly #blessed occasion. Yeah, we had a bye week last week, but this is episode 3. This is a very, very fun show. Thought stream was tomorrow. Double checked and live now. Don't make the mistake I did, kid. Double checked if you see. And double check that you like the stream. Thank you for
as you should. Double check and triple check as you should.
Absolutely powerful GV Black. Thank you for 199 James Joe Manchin 2024. We can push him left. Pinky swear. I seen them say more ridiculous shit. I seen them. They say stuff.
Saying that about Joe Biden was ridiculous.
They say ridiculous shit all the time. Bernie Sanders said the progressive movement should put all their energy behind supporting Jim Crow Joe. Yeah, Bernie Sanders and progressives. They said, yeah, we want peace. Let's send more weapons over there. They say that makes no sense all the time. Bomb for peace. Ignorance is strength. Go ahead, Russell.
Well, David Sirota just tweeted out that the Democrats could have raised the debt ceiling and reconciliation during the lame duck. The fact that they didn't tells you this is what they wanted. This is what they wanted. Now they can blame the Republicans for doing the kinds of spending cuts that Joe Biden has always been for. He's always been for this. He made these long speeches on the Senate floor about how he wants to put everything on the table, wants to cut Social Security. This is nothing new. Now, just like with student loans, they did it in a way that they knew it would get stricken down. They can claim that they were for it, but the Supreme Court, the Republicans. We had to be the adults in the room. We had to compromise to raise the debt ceiling, which sets an extremely dangerous precedent. Like, now that you've agreed on principle that can be negotiated, it's almost inevitable we're going to default, if not this time, at some point. Because now this is going to happen every time the debt ceiling comes up. Sooner or later, they're going to play chicken and crash.
So am I the only one tired of this same fucking storyline every goddamn
I'm tired too.
So they drag people along. People go along with the shit like it's serious. Oh, debt ceiling. Oh, the fucking default. Spoiler alert, they gonna implement austerity. Everyone's like, oh my God, Biden betrayed us. He cut his social spending. I could have told you guys that 3 weeks ago. They do that every time. You guys go through this thing every fucking time. You guys notice why I haven't done any stories over the debt ceiling, all this shit? It's the same political theater. They want to drag you to political theater so they can justify their austerity. Professor Richard Wolff actually did a great segment on this, like maybe 3 years ago, where you go through did the same political theater every time to justify austerity. The Democrats sit there like, oh my God, there's nothing we can do to stop Republicans from being crazy. Then a few Democrats always jump aboard and join the Republicans. The same goddamn thing. The Democrats there's more of us. If there's only more of us, this is what happened. Vote for us more. Like, it's so ridiculous. Go ahead, Russell.
Well, this is why they don't want to fix it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So what I want to add here, the best way to compare the debt ceiling, we're tired of it. We've all heard it before. If I could compare it to scenario, it's like, oh no, the country will collapse. The country will collapse. Well, guess what? The country is collapsing and people are in absolute poverty. I would compare this towards a situation where I remember in college, a friend of mine, his neighbors, the couple would always yell, and the wife, or I think the girlfriend, would always say, "I said I'm going to jump out the window because that's what you want me to do," all the time, all the time, right? Until one day, not my friend, but I was there. Somebody in that apartment yelled out the window, "Then do it! Jump already! I've been hearing you say jump out the window. Do it! Jump out the window. Go ahead, government. Collapse. Let the debt ceiling finally happen. Let it all crash and crumble down. You're saying that's the end of the world? Then do it. Stop wasting our time." Because we always hear this, but then again, what happens? We always lose our social programs. We always lose something. We always lose something. Well, we're going to lose everything, so you might as well pull the trigger and stop wasting our time, because we all know the ship is sinking. The system is falling apart. Debt ceiling crisis, every goddamn election year, every goddamn time we hear about it. And what's the end result? Oh, more social programs are being cut, but Wall Street gets bailed out. And of course, yes, money for the military industrial complex, because we got money to go to Ukraine, even though they lost their quote unquote fortress city that corporate media is not talking about. There you go.
I mean, if they could wait maybe a week to go off the debt cliff, just because I have to renew my Sam's Club membership so I could stock up on paper towel, frozen pizza, things I might need before they become totally unaffordable.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they have MREs?
Where?
Sam's Club. They have those.
Yeah, we
maybe at Costco. I could do a Costco run for you guys.
Yeah, do a Costco run. You got to do a Costco run.
There you go.
I'm gonna get to the super chat as well. Thank you for $2. The P train has already been derailed. We see who they choose to anoint. I don't think they're gonna anoint Pete. We see, but I think they. We see that Capitol is the ultimate decider in elections. 95% elections you can pick based on who raises the most money, and they can pour money. They will pour endorsements. They'll do the Super Tuesday strategy for whoever they want to win. And I don't know a way through standard electoral politics to beat this new strategy that they have. Progressives like, let's just wish and believe in the power of friendship and we can beat it. No, they figured it out. You guys surprised them at first with the squad. They were laughing at Bernie 16, but I think they prepared now. I think for the $10 GV Black, CJ, I'm sorry. I was skeptical and thought he was paranoid that this rat Neo. That's the guy that's the person. I don't know. The person who was having a meltdown because Marianne Williamson still had 2% in the polls.
Yeah, they got that chart that they tried putting together. The big chart with all the indie media faces on it. Yeah, they
What is this?
Is it some
asked
recent?
if I wanted to be on the chart.
Okay.
I'm not interested.
What is it?
They did hashtag force the primary, and we was like, dude, this shit is stupid. So they and his strategy is in action now. They did hashtag force the primary, and Marianne Williamson at 2%. Congratulations, good job. So anyway, let's move on to the next super chat. We got no one for Tusker.
There's several more that come in since you've been reading. Yeah.
We just having a fun time. We taking a while.
Yes,
to do
sir.
This, but, hey, fun,
Yes, sir.
Thank you for $5, Tusker. The DNC isn't about a political party or policy results. It's just a marketing campaign to maintain a political monopoly. Based as RBN audience, as always. Thank you, my friend.
Well said.
Thank you for $10, Bennett. I literally cracked up seeing this one. It was this one I died at, and there's another one. This one took me out.
No. Help, we don't know where we're at. Are you my friend?
Yeah, that'd be like, yeah.
Now, I will say this right now. I usually do not condone mocking senior citizens, especially people who are ridden with diseases. I make exceptions for members of the ruling class that implement policies that destroy millions of lives. So, and I guess I'm an asshole for this, but yeah, it's funny. Diane Funstein is funny. That's funny because she's a piece of shit. Thank you for that. Super chat.
I just got to say, what kind of psychopath is Fetterman's wife? Do you remember how she's running around telling people he's fine, trying to get a journalist fired for asking questions about it. And she had to have known how severe there's no way she didn't know. And I mean, you're just abusing this person who just had a stroke to make them a senator. I mean, he had to hospitalize himself. I mean, how do you do that as this man's wife put him through that? Just horrible.
She lived that once in my life.
Well, Russell, well, here's the thing. Like I said this before on my show, you'd be surprised how vile and evil people are out there, especially those who want power. It's easy to say Trump is the worst person ever, but there are people far worse than Donald Trump that have perfected the neoliberal mask. And it would come as no surprise that, she's probably doing far more nefarious things behind his back. I mean, look at Hunter Biden's son, Beau Biden, for example, who is dying of cancer. I mean, not Hunter Biden. I mean, Joe Biden's son, Beau Biden. But Hunter was having a relationship with Beau's wife.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So I mean, this is a thing. These political families and those
it's a close family.
They are the worst of the worst. You'd be surprised just what kind of nefarious actions they will do just to stay in power and to use those just to stay on top.
They're the ultimate gangsters, man. If you guys think these two big gangsters you see on the streets, bro, that's nothing compared to Jim Crow Joe, the leading arms dealer in the world, son. Mafia Don. You get the criminals on the street. You worry about nothing compared to just Jim Crow Joe. Yep. Lindsey Graham walking around gangster as fuck.
Exactly. I can't help but think of the show The Wire, for example. I mean, that entire series was epic. I mean, it was one thing to cover like some of the villains of the show, but the real villains were the politicians. They were the real bad guys in that show. The politicians. That's what he
says in that. It's a classic line in The Godfather. One man with a briefcase can steal more than 1,000 men with guns.
Whew.
Oh, God, that's a good quote. I gotta watch that film again.
I heard it's good.
Let's read a couple more. We keep getting more, so probably just read a couple more and then we'll read the rest later because we keep getting new super chats.
I'll do two more and then we read the rest of super chats after the next story. Thank you for 499 Franklin. Bondholders will be paid out even under default, so the finance issue overstated. We need to renegotiate the debt as we did at Brentonwood and 71. Thank you for 499. And this will be the last one. And we read some more after the next story. Thank you for 499. Sam at Majority Report.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Actually, like Joe's. There's no way that's a real show. There's no that show is fucking parody, man.
That's an op. That's an op.
There's no way these people are fucking real.
I gotta find that clip if that's true. We gotta.
And Sam Cedar, he's one of the people that think he's the gatekeeper of what it means to be leftist. Like he's one of the people that call Jimmy, Aaron Mate, anyone who don't support Democrat, right? You're a right winger. You're a right winger. Meanwhile, if you look at like policy wise, he said he don't care about the police being funded more. He loved Joe Biden's austerity budget. He's pro-war. These people are factually right wing, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. They pro cop, pro military, pro Biden, pro establishment. Anyway, I have a quick story. I want to react.
Yeah, let's do your story. It's actually I put it in the description, so it's part of this tapestry we're supposed to do. So go ahead, sir, and then we'll slide that from your story into that next story.
Yeah, you can always throw some receipts in here as well because this is
absolutely
the theme, and this is why I said earlier on I'm very interested to see how they're going to rig this because Biden and Kamala Harris is unbelievably unpopular. Yeah. And unlike and Majority Report is in the bubble. Emma Vigeland loves her some AOC. These people are in the bubble. AOC, and I'm gonna get to this later. I guess I kind of spoiled it. She's one of them. Once again, as unpopular as Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris.
Is she now? Is she now?
She's been for like over a year at least.
Yeah, she's right in the ballpark. There,
she's been around, like it obviously depends on polls, but she floats. It's been multiple polls.
Yeah, she's in the margin. There,
she floats between -10 and -17. Any given poll, I've been seeing her go around that number. Kamala Harris usually floats around -10, -15. Like she's around the same tier. But I see progressives laugh at Kamala Harris. Like, I'll see an AOC supporter laugh at Kamala Harris, and I'm like, your girl is the same tier of horrific as Kamala. That's not what I'm saying. That is what the American people are saying. Imagine being so bad as a politician that you support popular ideas, but you are unpopular. How does that happen? But anyway, I'm gonna go through this story pretty quickly. Biden gets low ratings on economy, guns, immigration. Guys, those are not small subcategories.
No.
Like those are big giant circles of the political compass. So you get bad low on the economy, that's giant. Guns, giant issue. Immigration, giant issue. And they're man, people disagree with you on abortion, or some sort of cultural issue. These are very entrenched issues. But I know one of you guys will try to go ahead, guys. So go ahead.
Well, on the immigration issue, it just shows what little command he has of any sort of narrative, because only someone as incompetent and as non-present as Joe Biden could treat immigrants worse than Donald Trump, but get criticized for allowing open borders.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he fails in both ways. Like he's actually been worse to the immigrants than Trump. We have more cages than there were under Trump. Not only do you have our cages at the border
they put in Wi-Fi though.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Not only do you have our cages overflowing, but because of the logjam at the border, a lot of these immigrants are getting turned around, and you have migrant centers south of the border overflowing. You have migrants now living on the streets in all of these Mexican cities because they don't have enough cages for them. So you have a complete humanitarian disaster at the border, far worse than anything that happened under Trump. At the same time, the right-wing media has been able to frame it as, well, he's the open borders president. So he's been able to fail on both sides, left and right. Absolutely. To the point where that issue really is a perfect sort of example, a perfect exhibit of just how pathetically inept, this White House is.
That shows the failure of neoliberalism here. To your point, one of the reasons why he got low ratings on the economy, on immigration, is because obviously younger people, more open mind, are more attentive, progressive voters are going to be against Biden. Because he's funding the border and DHS and ICE $6 billion more than Trump, deported more Haitians than Trump did in his first year, deported more people overall. So he lost the left on that, and then the right will always be against them.
They're always going to say,
you guys are idiots. They are not meant to win. They're here to continue the expansion of the establishment, the border industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex. And if they lose doing it, who gives a shit? We get the Republicans in and things be better. So it's like that's the fucked up situation that we are in, and people are stuck in if you're a duopoly leftist. Now, just to move on to this part, feel free to interrupt anytime, guys. I'm just doing a general presentation. Just interrupt if you guys have anything to say. But Glenn had my favorite take on this. I'm gonna read it. He said a newly released Harvard Harris poll demonstrates how radically out of touch the liberal corporate media is with the views of Americans. And not just the corporate media rejects Americans' views, they don't permit those views to be heard. Now, in the examples he give you, and I'm going through this thread because it's a faster way instead of going through all these polls. But look here, the majority of Americans say it is false that Trump colluded with Russia. So the Russiagate scam that liberals, including the Bernie Sanders left, promote as fact, most Americans are not that fucking dumb. Most Americans see what's going on. They know it's a sham, according to the polls. The only people who think Russiagate is real are the Democrats, the people that are stuck in their bubble.
Well, and if you do present this kind of information to Democrats, their immediate reaction is going to be, God, what can we do about how misinformed people are?
Yeah.
Right.
They'll never take it as a rebuke. They'll take it as evidence of their core worldview that they're the smart, enlightened ones. This is what I mean. Everyone outside their bubble are the barbarians at the gate that need to be either civilized or defeated. Right? They never consider that they're right.
A lot of these Democratic voters are people who came into power because again, if you look at the way they present themselves, these are the same people who helped dictate the narrative, who were around during the Bush Jr. administration. And so there was obviously that infamous, well, Democratic voters are smarter because look at Bush Jr., look at who the Republicans elected into office. And because of that smugness, because of that arrogance.
That goes way back. They did that with Eisenhower.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, like, they really tried to make the landing by saying that they are smart. And because of Trump's victory in 2016, their whole world was shaken. They were surprised that the American people elected somebody like Donald Trump. But when you have someone who is horribly unpopular like Hillary Clinton, it was simple for me. As soon as I walked out of the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, I said in my brain, there's a 50-50 chance that Trump's going to win this. He could really pull this off because of how the Democrats handled that convention, what they did to Bernie Sanders supporters. And it should come as no surprise that after the failure of the Biden-Harris administration through their 4 years, that a Trump presidency, a second Trump presidency, can and probably will happen. And it would be historic because not only will an incumbent president be defeated, but the previous president will be then completing his second term in just a matter of 4 years. I mean, that is incredible to see in our lifetime in regards towards, again, the arrogance of the vote blue neoliberal left.
And another show the arrogance. Look at it. Look at this fact here. Americans also believe that the materials on the Hunter Biden laptop are real and are not and never were Russian disinformation. 59% believe it's real.
That's actually surprisingly low, to be honest. I mean,
it is.
40% of
Because
people
they're not even claiming that anymore.
Right, yeah.
Like they just can't.
I'll read what Glenn says here. So again, Americans view the claim that the U.S. corporate media and the CIA spread for weeks before the 2020 election to help Biden win as a fraud. And yeah, I wish that number was it should be better, 100%. But I remember Twitter censored the story because it was fake. Facebook censored the story because it was fake. Until literally this year, it was considered a fact, and you were a conspiracy theorist if you said otherwise. Yep. That a Hunter Biden laptop, if you disagreed, it was Russian disinformation. He was a Trumper. So maybe this number is going to get better as more people learn the truth, and maybe it takes a while. But I think it's still kind of good that it's at least a majority after the insane propaganda that they did. But you guys' points are also well taken. I'm going to continue with Glenn's thread. The majority of Americans also believe Hunter Biden engaged in criminal influence, peddling using his father's name. The FBI is not investigating these crimes. Joe Biden participated in Hunter Biden's illegal influence peddling and profiteering schemes. A large majority of Americans say they are not surprised to learn the FBI abused its power in a 2016 Trump-Russia probe. Large majority also say they are deeply worried about the United States security state manipulation of U.S. politics. Something that if you said, Democrats would call you a conspiracy theorist, Trump or a Republican, for saying that the Democrats have weaponized the State Department. But everyone knows that's true. And last one I read, and there are a lot few here, I'm going to get to the approval ratings next. The large majority of Americans have serious doubts about Biden's mental fitness to be president and believe he is too old. And I actually want to read this out because I want to warn people not to fall for the goddamn trap that I keep seeing people fall for. Why do you guys think MSNBC and CNN keep pointing to Biden's age? They want that to be the number one criticism.
Right.
So they can say, these people are just ages. So I know it's a legit point, his mental acuity.
Well, you remember before it was the stutter. It was the stutter, right? You were ableist. They took it off that completely. They said, no, it's not. He has a racist stutter. He just says racist stuff because of his stutter. It's a rare condition.
If you can't vote for Joe Biden, then you ain't black.
Then you ain't black. That was his stutter talking.
So Glenn continues, and this is the main story he brings up here that I saw CJ tweet out as well. Cable News, Morning Joe, and them completely ignoring this poll. Poll finds that Trump is being Biden by 7 points. DeSantis tying president in matchup. So the liberal bubble where Trump is this unique evil that everyone should be melting down with, most Americans are not buying it. And it shows that the liberal media is out of touch. Now, the last part of the story, then I pass to you, CJ, for your next few stories. This showing the failure of the progressive left. Another poll. Like I'm like the only one who keep highlighting these. I had a tweet that went pretty viral when I compared AOC's approval rating with Kamala, and a lot of people were like, "Holy shit, we didn't know that." What do you guys think the result of AOC championing every single Democratic Party culture war? AOC, instead of organizing marches and campaigns to end the war for Medicare for all, she having Twitter beefs with Ted Cruz, talking about how she a victim of January 6th. She's a plant here to make socialism as unappealing as possible, as I have said many times. So look at this. This part made me mad. Elon Musk has the highest favorability gap, plus 14. But AOC is minus 13. Minus 13. Mitch McConnell is minus 24. And if you look at the chart, in the same poll, Hillary Clinton is minus 8. Kamala Harris is minus 7. Remember, AOC is minus 13. Joe Biden is minus 10. And this is something that AOC supporters and the progressives will never do. They will never self-reflect. Why are you guys losing people? Why is AOC more unpopular than Kamala fucking Harris? But you guys think RBN and our family is out of touch for criticizing them?
Well, and if you look at the people with the highest ratings, they're the ones that the elites, the establishment, the corporate media spend the most time trying to do what Matt Taibbi calls putting the ick on them, right? These are the most popular. If you put Joe Rogan in this, he'd be up there too. And then you got Bernie Sanders, who, we're disappointed with him, but he's still perceived as somebody that the elites don't like. That entire top tier are all these anti-establishment figures, at least in the public mind.
Now, I seen a poll where Bernie was like -1. This one he's +1, so that's around the same margin error. Bernie numbers took in a hit ever since he's like lashed on.
Sure, but he's still up there.
Your point is legit. I wasn't putting back in. I was just saying in general, people see that Bernie is a Democrat plant, and his numbers actually not as good as it used to be.
His numbers used to be great. He would have been at the top of this a couple years ago.
Yeah, he was easily the most popular senator. That's not the case no more. I think Tim Scott senator. Tim Scott +7, Nikki Haley +8. Like Bernie used to be top of this list. Ron DeSantis +8. That's not the case no more. But I did not notice it until I did my presentation. Now look at who's -7. Marianne Williamson. Hashtag force the primary.
Yeah.
Oh my! Like, can you imagine being so like? I would be embarrassed if I was people like Vanguard and many others that hitched their wagon to this clear loser, someone who's gonna make socialism and left ideas as unpopular as AOC has made them. She's not even a government official, and she's -7. You guys want to get behind her? But I guess it's RBN's fault.
Well, you know, it's not any of our faults. It's not Due Dissidence, Hard Lens, or RBN, and I'm going to tell you guys why. Look, all what these people have been doing, who've been surrounding the Marianne Williamson campaign, they've been trying and failing to recreate what Bernie Sanders created in 2016 through Marianne Williamson. But they have a flawed candidate. And I urge everyone to check out Due Dissident's video on Peter Dauo leaving Marianne Williamson's campaign. It is embarrassing. Well, not embarrassing. It's actually quite funny to watch all these large channels try and make somebody into something that she is definitely not, and incapable of following through. They're committing self-destruction, and it's a political embarrassment, because if I was in their shoes, I don't think I could even face doing a live stream. But because they have ego and pride, and they think and they think that Marianne Williamson is going to be that person, how are they going to explain to their audience as soon as Marianne Williamson, the crystal ball queen, no pun intended, decides to say, all right, everyone, we got to support Biden, even though Biden's drooling from the mouth? It is what we have said before. Anyone that's prompting up Marianne Williamson, bless your heart.
Get off the train now.
But you got to get off the train, exactly. But more importantly is, you deserve that disappointment if you're going to follow her all the way through to the end.
Man,
Yeah.
I'll be embarrassed. But it's on you.
along the same lines of losing influence, because we're kind of talking about losing influence. So I wanted to throw these couple of receipts in here about losing influence, because what's to piggyback off of Glenn Greenwald's tweet about when he points out this poll. This is where you see corporate media, liberal media, all of the so-called progressive managerial class people of the left of the Democratic Party are coming to find out that all of their tactics are wrong. Because what are we talking about here? Impeachment. We're talking about January 6th. We're talking about several investigations. We're talking about the constant on two major networks, CNN and MSNBC, constant, like every day they have multiple stories on Donald Trump. And then we're talking about print media.
Yeah.
Out of all of that, he's still up by 7 points, which got them pulling their hair out, because there was this poll that came out, I think it was ABC Washington Post. And then, Morning Joe kind of melted down. Then there was another poll that came out maybe 3 days ago, and they kind of quelled them because it showed Biden up. This poll being out, literally, this is the only corporate entity that's putting this out. If you Google this or go on DuckDuckGo and try to search this, you won't even find anyone really reporting on this poll. So they're purposely trying to bury it. But it only shows to me that they're losing their influence on the media. And that brings me to this next part. And that is this last receipt I wanted to show, and that is right here. That brings me to this story here. Barack Obama.
Yep.
We need full-blown government censorship to eradicate independent media.
What?
Yes.
What?
I mean, that's amazing.
God,
This man is a constitutional
Nick is like,
professor.
That's not an actual quote, but
no, that's
I
what
mean, that's how they
surmise.
That's not, he didn't put it that way.
That's Trump level saying out loud.
No, he wouldn't say that out loud. No. They
I need you to quote, bro.
Harvard Law School teaches you a little bit better than that, right? So, but we covered this. I mean, he spoke to, this was a couple of weeks ago. We covered this, but he gave a video sort of Zoom address to, I think it was the Columbia Journalism School, talking about, this very same thing, how, the role of the press is to, make it clear the line between fact and opinion and truth and untruth. And obviously what the subtext of all of that was, and in his actual quote here, I read this article, I think yesterday, I forget what the actual quote was, but it was actually a lot closer to their satirical sort of paraphrase quote here that they use for the headline. The way Obama views democracy is the way a lot of his ilk do, which is that you're free to make choices as long as those choices are of little to no consequence. That's one of George Carlin's best quotes. He says, the American people are made to feel free through the exercise of meaningless choices, right? And that's it. So, the media's job, in his view, we now have a divided conversation, in part because we have a divided media, right? That's the actual quote. And he actually goes on. But the point of what he's saying is that it is the job of the media to set the parameters of the conversation, to set the boundaries of the debate. On the left side, we can't go too far. On the right side, we can't go too far. And look, I mean, one of the things, obviously, this is very much fundamentally an anti-democratic thing to say. But the kind of democracy that Obama believes in and that the political establishment really sells to the people as real democracy, even though it isn't, does require a sort of gentleman's agreement on the part of both sides not to actually stir people up to the point where they may overturn that system. And that's one of the reasons why they hated Trump. That's the main reason they hated Trump, and it's the main reason why they hated Sanders, because when you actually bring popular ideas into the conversation, you're sort of breaking the unwritten rule of we're not going to go there, because populism can take on two forms, broadly speaking. It could take on the form of socialism or the form of fascism. And they're really uncomfortable with both. Now, you could say we have a form of soft fascism. Absolutely. We have the brand of fascism that, Obama is perfectly comfortable with, that Mitt Romney is perfectly comfortable with, this sort of soft corporate fascism. That's one more George Carlin quote. He says, the old saying that when fascism comes here, it will be, carrying a cross. He says, no, when fascism comes here, it will be dressed in consumer products. It'll be smiley faces and Happy Meals and things like that. That's a form of fascism, obviously, but it's not the kind that they're comfortable with. The sort of hard right fascism and the, in their mind, far left, I won't even say socialism, far left social democracy in their view. Those are threats. Those are threats. And people who espouse those views are breaking the unwritten rule. You don't go there. You have to stay in bounds, because as long as you're in bounds, we can more or less control either outcome. And Trump broke that rule. Bernie broke that rule to a lesser extent, unfortunately. But that's what their real concern is when they talk like this.
Whoa, is that Obama? He really looks different.
What
the hell happened to him?
He got articulated in his old age.
Let's listen to what he say. He verbalized parts of this interview here. So let's listen to it, and then we'll read some other parts of this breakdown here. Don't do me like that. Hold on, everybody. Let's click it again and see if it works this time. Let's refresh it. All right, so now let's see if
Obama must be haunted by the ghosts of all the Syrian and Libyan children he's responsible for.
Chances are, man, all those drone bombings were 100% innocent civilians, because, hey, in case you were paying attention, folks, finally corporate media said, oh, yeah, that drone bomb that killed that Al-Qaeda leader. Yeah, he was just a simple farmer. Simple farmer willing to bet 10 out of 10, 100% chance, spot on, that all the drone bombings that happened under Obama, all of those were innocent civilians who were farmers or engineers or anything of that nature. None of them were
I'm an
terrorists.
optimistic man.
Mm-hmm. Sorry,
I find
here
myself
I think it works now.
falling into this space where I have concern about the country that they will inherit once I'm gone. Post-presidency, what about this country keeps you up at night?
The thing that I'm most worried about is the degree to which we now have a divided conversation. In part
which you
because we have a
helped
divided
create.
media, right? So I'm much older than you, Nate.
You don't look it, though.
That's what I was fishing for. But when I was coming up, you had 3 TV stations.
Yeah.
And people were getting a similar sense of what is true and what isn't, what was real and what was not. Today, what I'm most concerned about is the fact that because of the splintering of the media, we almost occupy different realities. If something happens in the past, everybody
what I'm
would say,
concerned
we may
about
disagree
now
on
is
how
people
to
might
solve it,
go
but
to alternative media sources to find actual truth, as opposed to digesting the bullshit that's on, channel 4, 5, 7, 9, whatever.
Okay, well, this is the problem with this take, because on the face of it, he's not saying anything that I think a lot of us haven't said, right? That we have this bifurcated media. This is Taibbi's whole thesis, right? That you used to have a certain standard of journalism that he doesn't argue was driven by principle. He argues the commercial incentives were different, that the famed journalistic objectivity was driven by the idea that you want to appeal to everybody. So if you take a political position, you lose Republican readers of your newspaper, right? If you take a liberal position, so you wanted to go down the middle and just do a just the facts, ma'am, kind of a product. He's not wrong as far as that goes. But what he's saying, because of who he is and the perspective he has, is not that he wants a restoration of the media of old that had an antagonistic relationship very often to elites and to power. What he wants is a grape drink version of that.
He wants a media that's unified around facts that are signed off on by people like him.
Right.
That's what he's actually talking about. He's talking about a media that doesn't question elite narratives. He's not really talking about a return to objective standards of journalism.
Exactly.
Right. He wants the media back that blew smoke up his ass when he ran for president. There wasn't much of a YouTube space back then. There wasn't much of a podcast space back then. There weren't annoying assholes like us doing shows like this back then, you know. And yeah, obviously, you know,
He wants
they don't
Chris
like that.
Matthews' leg trembling.
Yeah,
and
right.
his,
Yeah, so
incredible charisma.
So what I want to add on here is, okay, so when Barack Obama got into office, he did use a little bit of social media. And of course, corporate media was there to hold his hand and give him a cookie and a nice glass of milk after a debate with Hillary Clinton. He was pampered, and the American people fell in love with the idea of Barack Obama. So all the things that he's talking about, look, what he wants is something that never even existed under his presidency, because everyone was so happy that finally, oh, George Bush Jr. is gone, and here we got this better president here in power.
Right.
But see, the thing about what Barack Obama wants further is it's not only our silence, but it's the silence of free thought, of people not challenging the two-party system and just assuming that everything's going to be okay with the people in power and the media is going to stick to the facts. The media hasn't been able to stick to the facts since even before Bill Clinton's administration. But even then, with Bill Clinton's administration, you did have the Telecoms Act, which helped create this nightmare that we're in. What he's crying about, he willingly turned a blind eye under his administration. And so now we have this nightmare that our politicians helped create, specifically the Democrats, Bill Clinton. You know, remember Barack Obama when you faced off against Bill Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton, who became your Secretary of State, who you then allowed to commit election fraud during the final days of your presidency when Bernie Sanders was denied the nomination. So all the stuff that Obama is crying and trying to say, I just wish things were simpler. It's all it is just him trying to manufacture, you know, silent, obedient consent from the people because, here Barack Obama is saying, let's go back to simpler times. Those simpler times never existed. Same thing like those people who want the 1950s to come back. The 1950s weren't that golden of an era. Maybe for a certain group of people, yeah. But for a vast majority of other Americans, no, it wasn't. Sometimes when you look back in history, it wasn't as great as people make it seem.
So one thing that's very telling here, do you guys remember when Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe said that it's our job in the media to control how people think?
Yep.
That was the most telling thing anyone ever said on TV. That's because that was Barack Obama is complaining about. Because our last story, we showed you guys how Democrats are losing the culture war on a plethora of issues. So Barack Obama is decrying that we do not live in an era where the media tells people what to think. Even during the 70s and 80s, the media told people what to fucking think. MLK was largely hated at his time because the media told him to hate him. Despite what people say now, Muhammad Ali was hated by white America because when he refused to fight in Vietnam, the media ripped him to shreds. And throughout the 70s and 80s, America was extremely anti-communist. Why? Because the media told them to be. They told
people forget it now. Fraser was like the good one.
Yeah.
Who was going to beat the bad one. It's true. That's totally forgotten today.
Yeah, absolutely, Russell. And the point being, we can finish the video as well after this. The point being is Barack Obama is decrying that they don't have that power. They do have power over large segments of the population, apparently 25% Democrat, but they don't have the large sweeping majority that the Uniparty used to have. Anyway, I think I'm at a point. See, you can finish the video, and you guys
we all agree that, that's an issue. Now, people will say, well, that didn't happen, or I don't believe that. And one of, I think, the goals of the Obama Foundation and
people will say, like, the Uyghur genocide didn't happen. That's what he's talking about. He's not referring to what he's actually saying in the video. That's what he's referring to Russell's point.
one of the goals of my post-presidency is how do we return to that common conversation? How can we have a common set of facts? We may disagree on gun violence. in terms of what the best prescriptions are. But we can't deny the data that says the United States has levels of gun violence that are 5, 10, 15 times more than other countries.
Hey, shit lives. Do you guys think it's a coincidence that the United States is the biggest arms dealer that the human race has ever seen, the most violent state the human race has ever seen? We have an unhinged police force, the like the human race has never seen. Oh, but we have a high amount of gun violence. Why do you guys think that is? You guys think there's no trickle-down effect?
I think what's going on here is that the Democrats throughout the decades, really, especially though in the, Obama era leading through the Trump era, they have cultivated a base that responds to the kind of media that Barack Obama is nostalgic for in that interview. And they know that that base is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So even though they've been able to win, whatever it is, 3 out of the last 4 national elections, right? 18, 20, or 2 out of 3. They sense that that influence is waning, right? They can kind of see the writing on the wall. Okay, as the media that our people consume becomes less relevant, more and more people are going to go outside that media system. And they're going to absorb narratives that we don't want them absorbing. And then it's going to be impossible for us to win. That's why they have no bench. That's why Joe Biden ended up their nominee in 2020, because they don't really have anybody who appeals to a broader set of people with a broader set of ideas, right? They're just kind of stuck with this dying brand and all of these dying, sort of avatars who rep this dying brand. They don't really see anything in the way of the future. Going back to RFK does kind of represent that. RFK entertains these indie media channels. He goes on, Kim Iverson. He goes on the Breaking Points thing, right? Like, he's going outside of their comfort zone. Whereas, look, even Bernie during 2016, you had to twist his arm to get him to go on like TYT. Like, like the Democrats just don't do that. They act as if this whole space does not exist, even though internet media is blowing, network TV out of the water in terms of actual views and users.
AOC heard Jen Psaki got a podcast and couldn't wait to make an appearance. Couldn't wait.
That's funny. All right, so what I wanted to do next. Oh, let me bring this next part in here. Because I think it's a great segue for us. All of these topics. And this is our last planned one. If this spins off into something else, so be it. All of our topics kind of flow together, just one connected to the other. And I feel like here's a transition. Go ahead, Russell. I think that's Russell. I can't see you, but I think that's Russell.
Well, yeah. Just to wrap that one up. I mean, what I see, watch it. I've mentioned this before on the show. Thomas Frank's book, The People Know, traces the history of populism and the way it's been always crushed whenever it rears its head. And a big part of how they've always crushed it has been the media. This is not a new thing. The media back then, the newspapers 100 years ago, coming together as one with the bankers and the political parties to crush William Jennings Bryan. Exactly what we saw with Bernie. What they tried to do with Trump, this is not new. This has been their playbook for over a century whenever populism rears its head, and it's always worked. If they lose the ability to control the narrative with media, what does that mean for their whole grift, right? I mean, this is the court of Louis XIV seeing the guillotines coming and saying, well, how do we stop that? How do we stop that? We can't. You can't. That's the thing. But they're going to try. Yeah, and that's why you're going to have increasingly hysterical attempts to, and some perhaps successful, to get shows like ours out off the internet.
Well, see, the thing is, to your point, okay, yeah, they could do that to us, but the thing is, it's impossible for the establishment to control it once people realize that they're scared. And the thing is, you mentioned the guillotines, especially with King Louis, when as soon as he realized that he was going to be put on a chopping block, by that point, it was already too late for him. The people were angry. They weren't afraid of him. They didn't fear him. They didn't love him. They hated him. And if you ever read The Prince and the Discourses, you realize that the worst thing you want as a ruler is to be hated, because then you have nothing to control over the people. The people are already willing to accept the risk of getting rid of you. So if you're hated, okay, fine, establishment. You don't like independent voices? You get rid of us? Fine. But we are going to give you this little heads up. There are people who will be waiting in wings when the whole thing collapses, who will be far, far worse than us around. Okay, and people are afraid. People are angry. When you have families struggle to pay the bills or buy prescription medicine or put food on the table, and they have to deal with the fact of loved ones dying or being disabled or being in pain, as soon as you keep on pushing and pushing people, they're going to realize they have nothing left to lose, and they have nothing to fear from you because they already know what's waiting for them. So in other words, establishment, you want to play the stupid game, go ahead, but you'll be in the long graveyard of empires and ruling class of antiquities past. So yes, they could be successful. They could be. But what I want to urge everyone here to realize is that the establishment is a paper tiger. It can be beaten. They're afraid. I'm going to say that again for the people in back. The ruling class is afraid. They do have power, but the fact that they're willing to do this now should tell all of you they're afraid of us. They're afraid of our voices.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think part of where the wheels are coming off also is they have been inciting a culture war to avoid a class war. And the only way to keep that going is to keep taking more and more extreme cultural positions, right? Because you can't, every time one issue gets resolved, you have to get another issue going, right? To keep the culture war going. Eventually, you're going to go so far beyond where people's mainstream attitudes and beliefs are that you're absolutely you're so horrifying and repugnant to people that they're going to just turn to the other side to protect them from you. And I think that is part of the box they've gotten themselves into as well. And AOC, tragically, sadly, has, to me, wound up being something of the avatar of that culture war in place of substantive politics when, we expected much more from her when we I don't know if you ever supported her. I literally went on the streets and campaigned for her the first time she was running.
That gotta hurt. That has
we can get
it does. It does.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick, gentlemen. You know what I realized? If I can compare AOC to anybody, I'd compare him to Robespierre in the film Danton. I don't know if you all saw it. Came out in 1983. Had to deal with the French Revolution during the Reign of Terror, and you had, as soon as the monarchy was gone, you had people who became, I forget which one of you guys, Keen, or maybe it was you, Russell, who mentioned that quote from Dune that rebels are.
That was
that was
Keaton's not that much of a dork.
Yeah. That there are rebels who just want to be part of the establishment. And when in that film Danton, you had somebody like Robespierre see somebody like Danton as who's advocating free speech and advocating for the will of the people being silenced. And AOC, who came to power in 2018, was this person saying, "Hey, we're gonna raise the ruckus." Have you ever watched one of Matt Orfala's videos, especially with the Force of Vote videos, you see that AOC of old who was advocating for challenging the establishment. And now here we see her and other sycophants like her who are in Congress saying, we got to follow along with the DNC party. We got to stop Trump, resist this. And if you are against us, then you are a Trumper, you are racist or misogynist and all of that. Our goal here is to empower people to speak out against the establishment. And I do urge you guys, if you haven't seen the film Danton that started in 1983, it's in French.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, dude, it is a work of art.
It sounds up my alley. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I would recommend checking it out. So anyways, that's just a short rant, but just check it out when you get a chance.
Absolutely. Everybody hit that like button. We're rounding. This is the last segment, last story, which happens to be the main. I would feel like this is probably the main story only because I won't say that part. But the second reason why this is the main story is because we've all kind of chimed in on what's happening with the Marianne Williamson campaign. Oh, do I have the graphic? I don't have the graphic. What's going on with the Marianne Williamson campaign? Sorry, I'll take this down. This is not the right graphic. And to see Peter Dauo do what he did recently, and along with some other campaign staffers, is amazing. But let's
y'all gotta get me caught up on this story because
we're
been following them. But
it's amazing. So Peter Dauo,
Marianne Wilson campaign is in shambles. Dead on the right.
I knew you were going to say. I couldn't wait for Nick to say they're in shambles. I knew you were going to say that. That's like your trademark thing. So I knew you were going to say that today. I had that on my bingo card. For today.
Bingo, you got it.
Let's listen, gentlemen, to this 3-minute rant. It's a beautiful rant before we get into, this is a good introduction into this segment here.
You see this guy right here? This is Peter Dauo. This is a Mark Trake fool in my best Compton voice. This is a nut wing. This is a nut job. A crazy man who do not have a clue. Stupid, silly, ignorant, dumbfounded. Don't have a brain. A bed white.
Dude, take it easy.
Yeah, we got to have this guy on. Who is this guy?
This guy is ridiculous. A little bit about Peter Dauo. He's a Democratic strategist who has advised major political figures, including Hillary Clinton, Arlen Specter, John Kerry.
Yeah, that's true. Kerry, Hillary, Bernie. Wow. I mean, this guy's a big
Marianne.
loser.
He was described by the New York Times as one of the most prominent political bloggers in the nation. Who? This fool? This trick? This punk? Political punk? Don't know what the crap he's talking about? This fool? But that was according to Washington Post, according to Jeff Bezos' paper. Because, they told the Democratic Party line anyway. They are the Koch brothers of the Democratic Party. The Washington Post said that his early work in digital politics helped innovate a whole new way of campaigning. How?
And it goes on.
Take that guy
and
off.
We
keep him on. He's going to steal all our subscribers. That guy. I don't never see
Seriously.
before. We're not going to.
I've never seen him, but he's got a good rap.
It's called the Rob Report.
Yeah.
It's called the Rob Report, and when I found the video, it only had 100 views. I think it has probably more now because I showed this before, but it had only 100 views. When I showed it, and I thought it just kind of summed up when he announced that he was going to be a part of the campaign. To me, this video, of course, curated and put it online because it just felt like it fit him because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. Why would a person who claims they want to go after the Bernie Sanders coalition, why would they get one of the biggest if not the biggest hacks against smear merchants of Bernie Sanders? It just never made sense to me. But then when we fast forward, and Nick has to be caught up to speed to what's happening here. When we fast forward to what's happening now, we're going to fast forward to this, Nick, right here. Now, sorry, my computer's slow. Now, what people may not know, Peter Dauo was the campaign manager, but he was a campaign manager only for a short amount of time, about 2 months. And here is his tweet. I finally got it up here. There we go.
Are you talking about the first tweet that he sent? that you're trying to load up?
I loaded up this Politico article.
Oh,
too, in case
if you have that first tweet, I have the tweets. I have both tweets here, but yeah, I have them here.
No, I don't have the tweets. I have what I was mentioning.
I can pull them up. Hang on, let me go ahead and pull up the tweets. So, are you talking about where? Peter Dauo?
No, I got it right here. Here goes, guys. Okay. Yeah, I got it. So sorry about that. For whatever reason, my computer was going slow. So let me pull up the tweet first to kind of get people to see what the actual tweet was, and then Russell will go to that article. But here is the initial tweet, and some of you already have commented on the tweet about the third party, and people are so ready to give this guy so much credit for saying some stuff, and right after that tweet, that's what they're doing. Here is the tweet that got everybody, that was shocking. I don't know if it was shocking to you or any of you guys, but let me quickly read it now that I finally found it. Peter Dauo, personal note, after much consideration, I've decided to leave Marianne Williamson's presidential campaign, where I was campaign manager. Details to follow. And I'll let whoever wants to jump in here without giving away the story chronologically. What was your reaction at this point initially? Anyone who wants to chime in?
What I have to
go ahead, Kid, go ahead.
So when I saw that tweet, there's just a couple of things that came to my mind. Number one, Peter Dauo probably saw the real Marianne Williamson. And what I mean by that is her inability to really handle criticism or how to successfully run a campaign. Case in point, there's a lot of political ammunition that can be used to derail her and her campaign. And already right off the bat, if you look at videos such as her showdown with Marcel Dixon, or either that, her meltdown interview with you guys at Revolutionary Blackout Network, it is quite clear to anyone, even to somebody like Peter Dauo, that Marianne Williamson will be nothing but a big target for corporate media and everybody to tear apart. There is no defending somebody who is incapable of handling an interview or even handling a simple question from a voter. She easily gets angry. She's easily riled up. She is somebody who cannot handle pressure. And I'm willing to bet she probably snapped at Peter or did something to which Peter walked into and was like, Jesus Christ, I got to get out of here before it gets too hot.
Well,
Any other initial reaction? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, building on that, we did an entire video on this, taking apart Kyle lying to his audience for a half an hour about the Politico piece about her long history of abusing staff, which he would not put on screen for very clear reasons if you actually read the article, because what he was saying did not match what was actually in the article. She has a 30-year history of people coming out and claiming that she's completely insane, that she's a sick, abusive narcissist that nobody can stand to be around. She had Mike Nichols, the director, and several other people flee her AIDS charity to go start their own just to get away from her. How sick do you have to be for people to run away from your AIDS charity and start another one just to get away from you?
The Vanguard uses that AIDS charity as a plus for her every time.
Well, so does Kyle.
People don't know.
So does Kyle.
Yeah, they use that. Go ahead, to your point.
They use that, but they don't want to tell you the actual history behind it. They don't want to tell you about the woman with cancer that she fired from that AIDS charity, who thereby lost her health insurance right before she had to go in for surgery. They don't tell you about that. They don't tell you that there are articles from People magazine and the Los Angeles Times that exactly track what Marianne's staff told Politico from 2020. So if you and going into these people who have been fluffing her campaign, who try to claim that they can still do their jobs, why haven't any of you motherfuckers asked her about that? Not one of you. Kyle went and lied to his audience about it for a half an hour. And the rest of them, anytime that they've interviewed her, have not even
brought it up, have not even asked her the question. That seems kind of relevant for somebody that you think should be president, doesn't it? That there's this long history of multiple people on separate sides of the country telling exactly the same stories, identical stories about their experience with Marianne Williamson. So this whole thing, I don't want to step on it. We'll go through it chronologically. But when he says details to follow here, remember, one of the things they said in the Politico article was that they had to be anonymous because they were all forced to sign very, very restrictive NDAs.
Right. So there's that. Okay. So he puts out that tweet, details to follow. He follows this up with this, talking about how we need an independent run. We need a viable third-party candidate. Jason Call, who was a director of sorts on the campaign, a higher up who co-wrote her campaign platform, he tweets out the same day that he is resigning as well. He says he's proud of the platform that he wrote, but he noticed not a kind word for Marianne in Jason Call's farewell tweet, which he deleted,
takes credit for the
which
platform.
he actually deleted after the fact, which could speak to the fact that maybe by saying he wrote the platform, maybe he said too much, right? Maybe that was an NDA violation. Who knows, right? But so anyway, Dauo comes out with this. So you have two higher ups on the campaign quit and sort of embrace third-party politics. Jason Call is now running for Congress in Washington State's 2nd district as a Green. So you have that. I actually, because we were going live with this yesterday, and I did want to do as much research as I possibly could, even though there was limited information out, I watched the Vanguard guys because I figured they might have something to say about this since they know Marianne. They probably know a little bit about the inner works of the campaign. They said on their show yesterday, now they tried to backpedal this today. I've been watching a lot of them the past 72 hours because this is kind of my beat. I got to stay up on the Marianne stuff, right? So they said yesterday on the air, they said we called somebody. They wouldn't say who they called. They said we called somebody close to the campaign, and they said it was office drama. That's what the Vanguard guys said on the air yesterday. So that's what we ran with last night because we figured, all right, they're saying it's office drama. And, you know, they tried to minimize it like it was no big deal, right? But office drama, when you're talking about someone with a history like Marianne, who of documented workplace abuse, right, kind of feels like there may have been some bad blood. So that's what we put out there as a possibility. We didn't say that's exactly what happened for sure. We also floated the theory that they got fed up with her waffling on the dirty break question because not only did they both quit the same day, but they both advocated for third parties on the same day. So we thought maybe that's one explanation also. Today he comes out with this story that his mother is sick, which, look, I have no reason to doubt his mother is sick. I just want to be totally cool about that. We obviously wish his mother all the best. But now he comes out with the story that his mother is sick. If your mother was sick, why wouldn't you have just said, you know,
right?
Unfortunately,
more to come, more to come. Why
would you say details to follow in the initial tweet? Why not just say, look, it breaks my heart to have to resign from Marianne's campaign, but I have to care for my mother. I wish them all the best. Like, that seems like something you would reveal at the start. Doesn't seem like something you would tease out that your mother is sick. So is that not a cover story? And today on the Vanguard stream, because I'm not going to jump on Russell's article, today on their stream, the Vanguard guys said, they even said whether that's the real reason or not, we don't know. Because don't forget, the Vanguard guys went on the air yesterday and said it was office drama. And they got that from an inside source. They said they called somebody and they were told office drama. They didn't hear anything about his sick mother. Right? So now we're supposed to believe is that his mother is sick. Still no explanation for why Jason left. Right? And so it's, I mean, this sounds to me
flimsy,
they're not allowed to say what they really want to say. That's what it sounds like to me, especially since through all of this, neither of these two guys have had a kind word to say about Marianne herself. They said, we're proud of the work we did. We're proud of the platform we wrote. We wished her all the best, which, but they have not said she was a pleasure to work for. No kind words for Marianne herself. So it's still very mysterious by the Vanguard guys' own admission, by the way. They even said today on the stream they're not sure it's because his mother's sick. That's why he stepped down.
You guys are a lot more professional. You guys are a lot more professional than I am. I'm a person that believes in human nature and your ability to understand things based off your human history and dealing with people. And you just go based on your human history. If somebody has to renege or leave, why would they not give that reason at the time that they're reneging?
Of course.
Unless
Well, and the
reason,
Politico,
and that's what you do.
Yeah.
You just use your human history, and I'm telling you, this is and they're not saying anything good about her. Like,
no, of course.
Like,
Yeah.
say she's terrible without saying she's terrible. Go ahead, Russell. I know you want to chime in. Go ahead, sir.
Well, and then the Politico article to me is the smoking gun because it's all over the place. So basically, the way I read it, they went into damage control, the Marianne Williamson's campaign. And they made really tells you what a C team she has working over there. What they came up with to kind of spin it and smear Dauo and Call was to claim that they're more coming from a world of establishment Democrat politics.
Meaning,
and
my God.
and we wanted to go in a different direction. Like, in other words, they were out-lefting them. They were too left.
That's the same thing Nick
Dauo
Brana said. That's the same thing Nick Brana said. It's straight out of the Democratic Party playbook. But this is news to me, Russell. So I can put this political because I haven't seen
I
this.
put it in the private chat.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I'm gonna bring this political. Okay, here it goes right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and share it now. This is brand new to me because I was looking for something to report on and put in the description, and I'll do that now. It's for everybody that's watching. I'll put this article also after I share it on the screen. I'll put it in the description if you want to go check it out. I had no idea Politico had already came out with something. And here is the headline. Marianne Williamson loses two top campaign officials in a matter of days. It's really one day. The campaign director and deputy director for the long shot Democratic presidential candidate quit over the weekend. And I'll pass it back to you, Russell, for your commentary on the. I know you were talking about the article, but I have it up now.
Well, yeah. And so an insider claimed that was the reason, and then both Dauo and Call tweeted out, that's absolutely ridiculous, and Call said it's so obviously easy to disprove this. I can't believe that they said that. So clearly their hands are tied with an NDA. And this is them, firing a shot at them, according to reporting that's been done on Marianne in situations like this. She threatens people. One of my favorite Marianne quotes from one of these articles is, I'm famous, God damn it. I don't need this shit, or something along those lines.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
So, and that was one of her AIDS charities. Actually, that wasn't even a political campaign. So then something that's very revealing to me is they couldn't agree on what Dauo's role was. Marianne's campaign tried to spin it as he was the temporary campaign manager, or he was the deputy campaign manager.
What?
Dauo described himself as the campaign. Yeah, they're
manager.
trying to make it like, no, this was always a transitory thing. No, he was.
Then why
never
show up
really
in the
going
first
to
place?
stay.
You can
For
just say,
somebody
hey,
who's
I'm an
non-establishment,
advisor. God damn it.
she's doing a lot of establishment strategy. Let me read a little bit of it.
Very badly.
Yeah. Let me read a little bit. Stop me where you want. Just let me know where you want to stop if you want to comment. The two top campaign officials for long-shot Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson resigned over the weekend. Jason Call, the campaign's deputy manager, told Politico on Monday that he left Williamson's team on Friday. That came after campaign manager Peter Dauo announced last Saturday on Twitter that he was leaving the campaign, quote, after much consideration about 1 month into the job. Wow, God. 1 month. That's
after much
terrible.
Consideration and 1
Why
month.
do you need
so
to
what did he like consider?
I know
that
your mom is sick? What are you considering? That your mom is sick?
No, here's what probably happened. I'm willing to bet that both Peter and his fantastic friend walked into one of Marianne's infamous meltdowns, and they were like, "Oh God, she's freaking crazy. We got to get out of here, or our careers are really ruined." They had to see something had to have happened where they saw Marianne Williamson not in her prime.
Or it could have just been a buildup of her acting crazy. I mean, if you watch that video with Marcel, it's very consistent with how people have described her. You're there in South Carolina trying to convince a black audience that you're on their side on reparations, and you turn around like fucking Michael Myers, like you're gonna attack Marcel Dixon, who's questioning you on Jewish reparations. Like, you could see right there, like, the thing that people have described, like something clicked in her brain, and she came for him, and then she stopped herself and just completely avoided him for the rest of the
I'm glad you brought up Marcel
video.
Dixon, because I interviewed him. And, you know, when I gave him a platform for him to share what happened even after the cameras were done rolling. And apparently Marianne Williamson's campaign was very apologetic. They were apologizing to him. And when he went to have a private one-on-one conversation, I urge everyone to check out that interview. She was still completely hostile, venomous, yelling at him, as talking down to him. And
who does that?
And if you even look at her body language, like when you watch the first video, not including the interview that I did with him, but if you watch the first video that you saw on Twitter where he posted it, she's standing very close to him, very nice and friendly. And as soon as he starts spouting out some things that she doesn't like, she bolts, she leaves, she's distance away. And then when she does that infamous, you don't know, she starts yelling and walking at him like she wants to deck him. And
that's in public.
Yes.
What do you think she's like in private?
Probably far worse. She probably, you have to drink a couple after dealing with a fight with her. Like,
well, you don't think also after an incident like that, Peter Dauo, who is, a veteran political operative, doesn't have the best track record. Obviously, Kerry, Hillary, Bernie, a whole lot of L's on that list, right? But you don't think there was a conversation, hey, you can't do that? Like, you can't, we're here. We got 10 people in the joint, and you kind of
you can't attack 10% of the audience.
you can't attack the audience like that.
You can't treat everybody in the audience as hecklers. You got
exactly. I mean, so it's very possible that it was something like this. Look, there are other theories. It could have been that RFK's entrance into the race just killed any chance at momentum that they could have had. The thing that does lend itself to this theory about how there was just a lot of internal strife is that both Peter Dauo and Jason Call are clearly not allowed to talk about the real reason they left. Because even when they went to refute this article, they were extremely vague. They just said these are lies. We are not, we are not to the right of Marianne's campaign. They didn't issue any actual clarification as to why they actually left. And the sick mother thing begs the question, why couldn't you just have said that yesterday when you announced? That's a completely benign.
Why would you say more to come?
Why would you tease that out? It doesn't really make sense. She threatened
the fuck out of him. Because Dauo, look, I mean, I get the sense with Dauo that Dauo is pretty flaky. And in spite of the NDA, it looks like he was about to write a check his ass couldn't cash that Marianne would have taken him to court for. And I am betting he heard from her. In no uncertain terms, I will sue you to the full extent of the law.
Plus, you got to look at how you guys brought this up in your video, but she has connections to that Hollywood crowd, and that Hollywood crowd will gladly go to bat for their crystal seeing queen who can predict the bad vibes. I mean, the thing is,
he's in the same communities. He's in
the same community, but she's of a higher level. I mean, she's with all these people. She's with them 24/7. How Oprah helped her rise to ascension. So, I mean, you guys did a great breakdown on how she was never going to run third party. The Vanguard asked her a question, and she gave them a word salad. And the thing is, what everyone should take away from that is Marianne Williamson will never tip the apple cart, because if she does that, then she loses her financial connections with the Hollywood.
She doesn't want to get surrounded.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the details to come. I think what he did was he put out the tweet to test the reaction, and he could have possibly had a reason, multiple reasons, and he's like, oh, This is the reaction. Everybody's like, "Fuck you anyway." Okay, let me go with the nuclear option. And the nuclear option for any job, any occupation is what? Family emergency. Family doesn't require any explanation.
Right.
Doesn't require
it doesn't
any
fall
proof.
under
It's
any
just,
NDA thing. You're allowed to talk about your mother being sick.
That's it, guys. That's it. I gotta go. But no way do I buy this. I don't buy what Jason Call is saying about the reason. You would clearly say, man, I feel so bad that I have to leave the Marianne Williamson campaign at this pivotal point when they're just gaining steam, and I gotta leave because I gotta go take care of my mother. You wouldn't go details to follow. Like you're trying to think of a reason, a workaround the NDA. You're trying to think of a workaround the NDA, and a workaround to all NDAs is family emergency. That's my final words on the topic.
I couldn't imagine.
Sabby's exactly right there. That's what I was going to say.
Well said, Sabby.
What's in it for all of these people? They're trying to get those Hollywood connects. Look, even though Crystal has enough money to fund both of these campaigns, and she should if she believes in it, these runs so much, she should fund her good friend Marianne's campaign. Still, man, to get access to Oprah, to get access to those people, you got to have access to, because they got money. They're not impressed with your money. Right? You gotta have a connect to get in touch with those people.
Yeah, they expose themselves as dishonest, because I remember what these people said during the beginning, because they said, well, we just support anyone for a primary challenge. Me and CJ called them out and said, no, you support her because she's your friend. Now, if you say you support Marianne Williamson because you want to see a primary challenger, why are these people not supporting RFK even though he's
not one of them? Not one of them.
They're not, because it was never about supporting a primary challenger.
No,
it was always about propping up her friend who's trying to go on a book tour, who's trying to sell books, and then they can later be rewarded because she got access to the Oprah Winfrey Hollywood Club.
Well, it also shows you who they are, because in the end, you can support wacky Topanga Canyon guru,
I like the
Oprah
Topanga
Winfrey.
Canyon one.
Yeah,
you can Topanga Canyon, because that's right here.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
they can support that without losing their connections. They cannot support RFK without ruffling feathers among the elites. In the end, the fact that not one of them is supporting RFK, that they all picked Marianne, that tells you who they are. And you're right, it's not about a primary challenge, or they'd go for the one that's stronger, right? Why would you go for the weaker one?
So what I want to know is, what do you think the overall fallout will be for all the channels that have been going to bat for Marianne Williamson? Because the thing is,
it's a good question.
It's as all of this gets revealed, I mean, you can't hide it for too long. I mean, until Marianne Williamson has another one of her meltdowns in front of a larger crowd, or more people decide to come forward to the independent media, or even at the mainstream press, and say, hey, this lady's off her rocker. And Vanguard, Kyle Kulinski, Breaking Points, they have a huge cachet of videos of them saying, and even short video streams of them saying, hey, go ahead, support Marianne Williamson. She's a challenger. She's a fighter. There has to be a fallout. There has to be a pushback into the audiences that have been consuming that content. There has to be that eventual call out of,
well, you'll get
you support a candidate that you guys lied about. Why should any one of us trust you? You're no better than corporate media.
Well, you'll get what's happened with a lot of stations that started out with a left audience, like Majority Report, like Vanguard, actually. Like once they showed who they were, they lost the left part of their audience. And they wound up with that part of their audience that just wants an MSNBC that they can super chat to. That's what they wind up with. And if you look at the view counts relative to subscribers, it shows you that. A lot of those subscribers are just zombie subscribers that stopped watching them once they showed who they were. Majority Report, for over 1 million subscribers, it's like nobody watching that show. Really. I mean, if you watch what the counts are on their videos.
Yeah, it's very, very small as a percentage.
It's a very small audience. So that's your answer. I mean, you get people who join these channels thinking they're one thing, and then once they find out what it is, only people who want that other thing are going to stay. And those are, I mean, with things like the Majority Report,
We were talking about it on the show yesterday. The only thing I can think, like, if that's what you want, why aren't you just watching MSNBC? Like, why aren't you, like, what are you coming to YouTube for? The only thing I can figure is because of the chat. That's it.
It make them feel edgier, feel more young.
Yeah. It makes them think they're independent. There's that too.
And look, I get my news on the interwebs. That's
exactly.
I'm hip. I'm with it.
We get I know.
Any final words on this to close out this segment, and then we'll get to super chats, Nick, and we can close out here.
They should blame Vladimir Putin for sabotaging the Marianne campaign. Have a sort of Russiagate version of that. Yeah.
I told you guys that she couldn't do an interview with a college dropout like me without melting down. I said, just imagine what become. If you couldn't pass our test?
Yeah.
Without melting down?
I mean, one other telling
thing
even
just being a politician, you're on fucking camera. Like, fake it, for God's sakes.
Well, one other thing is, where's the 2020 staff? Like, is she able to go back to any of those people and say, "Hey, I need a new campaign manager"? Or no?
They all talk to Politico.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, they all got out and ran. I think what would be the final takeaway is that prepare yourself to see more people leave the Marianne Williamson campaign and see her fizzle and die out. Look, whatever your thoughts on RFK Jr., it is undeniable. You cannot ignore the fact that as soon as he stepped into the arena, he took away all the win from Marianne Williamson's sales. She embarrassed Kyle and Crystal and the Vanguard. And progressives and independents who wanted to vote for Marianne Williamson saw RFK Jr. like, you know what, we're going to go to him because we like what he's saying. So it's only a matter of time before maybe we see another breakdown video of Williamson doing something similar to what she did to Marcel Dixon or something else of that nature. I mean, even when Lucy and a few other activists went to confront Marianne Williamson for her support for Israel and the apartheid state, her staff members were attacking and pushing away people. That one skinny boy, Noodle Boy, as I call him, went to try and push out one of I tried to push out one of the activists, and I mean, goddamn, he got spent around like a sad little toy. I mean, that's how pathetic that entire campaign is. So prepare yourselves, folks. You're going to see more hemorrhaging from the Williamson campaign. In fact, I'm willing to make a fair prediction that she will not be even in the first primary vote. I don't think she'll make it to South Carolina.
I will go further than that. I say her campaign wraps up in the next 2 months.
Dude,
I will say in the next 2 months, and I will also say, because if you look at Dauo, if you look at Call, if you look at their initial tweets before, whether Marianne personally called or a lawyer called, somebody scared the shit out of them. They want to talk. You're going to see some leaked stories about this campaign within the next month, and you're going to know that there were probably sources for it.
Imagine you're one of the many people that brought Marianne Williamson campaign up and this happened, and you gotta go explain to your audience what the fuck just happened.
You're right.
Awkward. You know how awkward that live stream gonna be.
Well, no, Nick. Yes, you are correct, Nick. But I'll go one step further, just like how Russell did. Not only will they have to make that video, but then that's stuff for us to feed on, watch, and comment on. So I say, present me with that steak and potato and side dishes and a side of cake and a glass of wine and whiskey and some weed. Give me that. That's a delicious meal right there. Give us that. I want that.
Are you not entertained?
I want to see what you guys think in the chat as well. Like, what's the bet? Russell say a few months. If I had
to say 2 months,
I'll give her before South Carolina. That's my guess. Like, I want Russell's reality to be real. I just don't think it's gonna be that funny. Like, it can't be that funny. The story can't.
There's no money. There's no money coming in, and she's already losing her staff.
That would be so funny. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I really do. I wish it does. All
right. Okay. So
let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know in the chat.
I got end of year. End of this year. Yeah.
I got maybe shortly before South Carolina. That's what my initial guess is. We see what the chat says. But anyway, thank you guys for the super solidarity super stickers, Martin and James. This is another good point here. Thank you for $2. I think we read Axel Strife before. the Republicans will blast East Palestine from the rooftop.
Yeah.
The campaign ads
Yep.
could
Okay,
write them. So,
smart.
I mean, the Republicans kind of like, once again, the reason why I was torn was like, man, you never know, Republicans might punt the ball because they could write the campaign ad writes itself. Like Joe Biden goes to Ukraine as East Palestine is abandoned. But once again, the Republicans support Ukraine. So anyway, we see how that works. But that's going to be a really hard thing for Democrats to overcome after East Palestine. I think the rail strike is another one. The Ukraine war is way more unpopular than liberals thought it was going to be. That's why he down 6. Doesn't look good for Democrats. That is. I think this shit is hilarious either way. Capitalist infighting, fucking hilarious. Thank you for the $2. Marvin, Fetterman's wife will love him. Can't you tell? Money, power, and fame. There's another one from Marvin. What's that initial?
Fuck Joe Biden.
Fuck Joe Biden. Get gangbanger drug smugglers vote. Thank you for that, Marvin. Thank you for $10. Diane, the hand wringing about RFK's candidacy might end if an interviewer asks him for a strategy for being the rigging and find out he doesn't have one and there's no plan B. Has anyone asked him about that? I watched all the interviews. I think did Jimmy grill him on that? But that's an out. Like I'm not really interested in talking to like presidential candidates. Like Marianne like asked to come on the show, and I told you I did a live stream before that. I was like, God, I don't even want to fucking do this shit, because I don't really care.
I got she asked you to go on the show.
Yeah, that was a lot of people forget. Like she asked us because we was roasting her, and then she replied under my tweet where I wasn't even like tagging her. I wasn't under. She's like, yeah, can I come on? And then she thought we were gonna give her a fluff interview after you come on and waste and bullshit our time. Fuck out of here. I don't like interviewing politicians. It's weird. I interview a few. There's a few I like Shahid, but I don't like interviewing politicians. It's weird. Are you selling something to me? You come on our show, you selling something. I'm not interested.
Right.
You guys see, I like talking to foreign policy journalists, activists. Like you see Comrade Misty, you see Aaron on, you see many I have Eddie Liger, he coming on Wednesday. He just destroyed Vosh in the Ukraine debate.
Yo, that debate was so fucking boring. I turned it off an hour into. I couldn't watch it. It was so boring.
It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch for sure.
I mean, it's not his fault. It was boring. Vosh was hosting it.
Vosh was hosting stuff like the people who.
But it was so boring.
The people who follow Vosh are truly brain dead. Like he's literally fucking up. I watched only like 5-10 minutes of it. I'm gonna do more catching up because I have Eddie on and we'll talk about it. But I watched like 5-10 minutes. Like Voss was obviously filibustering, and he was like grilling him. He's like, "Do you know the exact date of this? Do you know the exact date of this in the Maidan coup?" He's trying to say the Maidan coup.
No, that's what I mean.
And I'm like, this is so stupid.
Yeah,
like,
it was so boring.
Not see what he's
unwatchable.
Doing? Yeah. Anyway, completely unwatchable. But Eddie's gonna talk about it on the show. Anyway, my point was I'm more interested in talking to people who actually expose the establishment, not someone who want to be a part of it. Politicians not interesting to me. Thank you for $5, Sith Laura Prince. I appreciate the analysis on the political economy. It will help to locate how this is relevant to the material conditions of the Black labor today. The conditions of Black labor, what we consistently talk about on this channel all the time. That's why I called out those Black people who were trying to pretend that the immigrants was why Black labor is exploited by capitalists as well. You have Chicago. In the protests I covered in particular, they was like, build that wall. I'm like, the criticism that you guys had was they was not spending enough resources on you. So why would you want to spend millions of dollars on the wall instead of spending on yourself? you got Chicago that allocating 1/3 of the city's budget to the police department, but you guys think immigrants is your problem? The problem is the Walton family, Jeff Bezos. These are the people who employ the most Black people. Like these are a large segment of our economy comes from people who can easily afford paying us. Like Jeff Bezos can easily pay all Black labor. The Walton family can easily pay all Black labor. Disney can pay Black labor in Florida, but they don't. So there's nothing that the immigrant is doing that preventing the capitalists from doing that. Anyway,
I also want to add on too, because you brought up my city. Our new mayor, quote unquote, Brandon Johnson, is still keeping up with the same policies of funding the police as his predecessor, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, did. So nothing's changing.
Oh,
So,
really? I thought he was supposed to be like this progressive guy. We knew.
No,
I had you on it.
No.
his
No.
campaign, his
We knew
campaign,
it.
no, wait.
I knew
His campaign, originally again, Mayor Brandon Johnson was all on board for Black Lives Matter and defund the police way back in 2020, but now his policy, especially during the campaign of 2023, was redefine the police. Redefine, not reform or not defund, but redefine. So you figured out what that means, but otherwise, show what it really means is that nothing's going to change. All right, the police are still going to get that budget.
Of course, I saw a bunch of Bernie people super excited about this win, and I was like,
of course, because Bernie Sanders was in my city during the election at Navy Pier.
I was immediately like, I don't believe this shit. Get the fuck out of here. You guys like, oh, you guys are gonna have to. No, I don't fucking believe it. Get the fuck out of here. But anyway, I'm gonna continue on because I know we gotta get out of here soon. Thank you for $2, Roger. The jig is up. Corporate media, the jig is up. That's why they want Trump to win again. Because CNN is struggling.
Yeah.
Your time, they're struggling, man. Y'all better do another town hall.
Yeah, no, they need that orange line. They need that orange Cheeto line.
Well, they're trying to go back to the old business model, try to appeal to everybody, try to be nonpartisan. But
good luck.
We're so far removed from that kind of media. There's just no audience for it anymore, I think.
Yeah, thank you for the 199 James. Marianne 2024. NATO left, don't want to work anymore. Thank you for the 199. Give me mixed messages there. Thank you for the $5. Lots of new folks in the chat. What's poppin', friends, family? Y'all might want to introduce your different channels. Yeah, we make sure we give everyone the proper shout out. Harlan's Media, Do Dissidents. Join us for our Post-Duopoly Show. We do this about bi-weekly. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think bi-weekly works.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun. I know you guys got Kit always busy, Do Distance always busy. I think it's good. This bi-weekly. Thank you for the $2. Yo, what's poppin', fam? What's poppin', fam? Thank you for the $5 Canadian bucks. I wonder if Karen Ball will scold people for not growing up and backing Marianne Williamson. Man,
if you want power,
was there ever a quote that aged worse than that shit? And Jordan Cheriton from Status Quo was like, "You got him, sis. You nailed him." I wish I had to say that. Like, imagine hearing that meltdown and not immediately being reposed. That's why I won't let her live it down. So RFK killed Marianne Wilson's candidacy, and her strategy is a joke. It always was a joke. But third-party activists need to grow up. It's
right.
So these people are so
right. Like look at who you're backing. Fucking Marianne Williamson. You're backing this new age scam artist. and you're talking about other people being unserious. Like your proposal is a serious proposal. Like this woman, like that campaign was never going to go anywhere.
According to these people, movements have never been built. Third parties has never been successful. Establishments has never been overthrown. So you might as well shut up and just accept it with your hands you've been given. That's the message that Crystal Ball gave in that video. And my question I always give to you guys, who does that ideology serve? Doesn't serve me.
Serves people with $44 million.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which one? I don't get why people listen to people that not in their class, but that's just me. Guess I'm a hater. Who knows? Thank you for the $2, Roger. You guys are generous. I'll give Marianne campaign till next week.
Yo.
Dude, I am rooting for the most hilarious outcome. I really hope you guys and Russell is correct. I really do. And it is plausible. I see it happening. I just don't think this shit's gonna be that funny. There's no way it's gonna end that hilarious. There's no way we're gonna be.
Well, you know what? Like hold on. Wait. Hold on. Everyone clip this, because if that does happen, Nick, you got to be quoted and be like, "I didn't think it'd be this funny." And
there's no way it's gonna end that fucking hilarious. There's no way the Bo's gonna wrap up.
Look, man, when your campaign is too fucked up for Peter Douche, you're not long for this world.
It's not comedy. This is real life. This is real life. But anyway, CJ, I think that's all super chats. We can pass everyone for plug, shout out.
Yeah, just final words and all that stuff.
We start with
get
Kit,
out of
and then
here.
we're gonna do distance after that. Any last words? Anything you want to plug, Kit?
Folks, look, do not fall in love with any of these politicians. I know that there are some supporters of RFK Jr. and yes, whatever remains of Marianne Williamson, but if you vote Democrat or Republican, you are wasting your time and energy invested into groups and organizations that are trying to help out their communities, help support third parties, support citizen ballot initiatives, and make your state into a citizen and ballot initiative state. That's a fight far better than hoping that somebody who sits in the White House actually gives a damn about you, because they do not. If anything, we need to start breaking away, and hopefully this election year will be the one in which there is no going back towards the traditional of, okay, it's let's hope for this next president. No. And that's what we do at Hard Lens Media. So tune in 9 a.m. in the morning, Monday through Friday, YouTube, Odyssey, Rock and Rumble, and Twitch to check out Hard Lens Media, because folks, this election cycle, we need to break away and snap away from being hypnotized by the neoliberal lies of the two-party system. And if you want to vote Democrat or Republican, fine, but just prepare to be disappointed. And I only could keep on saying it. You could lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Simple as that.
What's that, Kid? I'll pass it to Kean and Russell. Any last thoughts? Anything else you guys want to plug? We guys have coming up.
We got a stream on Thursday. We stream Thursdays at 8, Sundays at 7 over on our YouTube channel, Do Dissidents. We're also on Rockfin and Rumble as well. And we're on Substack, and you can listen to our audio podcast too. We put the live streams up as audio feeds. So yeah, if you guys want to come and hang with us Sundays and Thursdays, we're looking to add a third stream at some point over the summer. We're trying to integrate a third stream into things to make our schedules a little busier.
A morning one, because we're very popular in Ireland.
Perhaps a morning one, yeah, so that our overseas listeners...
We are. It's weird. We're like popular in Ireland.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Our podcast is ranked top 100 news and politics podcast in Ireland for some
All
reason.
right.
Very
good. Very good.
I don't know how that happened.
It's the dark humor, I think.
I think it's the dark humor. Yeah, Jews and the Irish, we have similar dark senses of humor, so maybe that's it. But yeah, that must have something to do with it. Yeah.
So
but yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for putting these shows together.
Yeah,
thank you guys very much. And as far as outside projects go, I am leading a writing campaign for Dave Chappelle. So if we all pull together, we can make Dave Chappelle president in 2024.
Listen, guys, we have an opportunity here. We got
We have an opportunity. It's just Dave Chappelle.
It's just Dave Chappelle. Think about that.
It's just Dave Chappelle and Joe Biden.
I think y'all sleeping on Afro Man. I think y'all sleeping on.
That's right.
You know what?
He's independent. Got the best platform thus far. I say that unironically.
Just be careful. If I don't know what any of your guys' situations are, but if you're getting married between now and the Super Tuesday, just don't invite him to the wedding. You keep that separate, right? Don't mix it.
So, Nick and Night, I'll have Eddie Liger from Midwestern Marks, Crush Vosh and his debate about Ukraine. Debate was very tough to watch. We're going to be covering Ukraine, and I think it was important, even though Vosh is a clown, because you get to see the mindset of the NATO left. He's the chief propagandist for the NATO left, and you see he had nothing for Eddie Liger. So I think that the debate was trash in terms of entertainment value, but Eddie held it down, and that I think it's important to cover just so you see the weakness of their positions where they arguing over shit like dates. And so, like, what the fuck does that have to do? Why you guys support arming Nazis?
It was incredible how they must have spent an hour litigating that just extremely minor detail.
We're not even going to go over the video. I may find clips. We're definitely not going to go over the video. We're mostly going to be a Ukraine because Eddie is fantastic on Ukraine. So it's mostly going to be like an hour Ukraine stream. We're going to cover a lot of stories, a lot of breaking. It's been a while since I did a Ukraine stream. So a lot of breaking news to cover. And we can cover like some bullshit NATO love nonsense. Anyway, that's why I'm coming on Wednesday. RBN live on Tuesday. CJ, any last thoughts?
Tomorrow we'll be here, RBN live. Wednesday we'll see if I will be able to stream. But just check in with RBN every day. We got streaming going on. Make sure you, if you're able to contribute to our GoFundMe, scrolling at the bottom for our great editor, get all our work. She does all of our work, all of our editing. If you're able to contribute, please do. And
That's
we're
right.
going to end here with this video, and I'll read the caption for those. This is the great actor, singer, socialist Paul Robeson singing here. He'll take us out. Thanks. Hit that like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe. Thank you.
Peace out, fam.
Last night. Thank y'all.
Take care, everyone.
Says I, but Joel, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake City, Joe says I am standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. And standing there as big as life and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they can never kill went on to organize. Went on to organize. I dreamed I saw Joe here last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.